Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Carrie, please call the roll.
Councilor Beasold?
Here.
Councilor Smallwood?
Here.
Councilor Hamblin?
Present.
Councilor Lee? Here. Councilor Exner?
Here.
Councilor Schultz? Here. Mayor Bullion?
Here. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming out this evening. Community activism and getting involved in your community and coming out and speaking about something that you're passionate about is what communities are all about. So I just wanted to take a second and thank everybody for coming out and showing up tonight on something that you're so passionate about. The way this evening is going to work is we have Mark Stoller here, which is with OPSIS, which is a consulting firm that our city has contracted out with to investigate. Investigate sounds like a poor choice of words, but
it's part of that.
It's part of it, yeah.
Maybe.
What's that?
Inform, maybe.
To inform. Well, we're really to look at the current state of the facilities, both of the swimming aquatic center, as well as the old Cedar Ridge building, the Sandy Community Campus, and to come back and to present to council some future opportunities that we could have. So a little bit of the presentation is going to be the current the physical structure and how those are today, as well as some different moves as council and as a community that we can go. Also, Aaron Mapes with Walker May, who's the construction firm, the architect. All right, we'll be here as well. I'm anticipating the presentation will probably be in the vicinity of anywhere between 30 and 45 minutes. And then we will open up for public comment from the audience. What we're looking at is 3 minutes an individual for that. We'll be looking at probably approximately about an hour for public comment. If you are, if there's different organized groups within here, thinking about time and an hour and stuff, you may decide to kind of consolidate some of what you want to say if you're representing a group into the talking, what you want to express to council on behalf of your organization. We're also accepting written feedback as well. So again, thank you for coming, and for the next several minutes, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Mark. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Well, I know one of my grandmothers wished I had gone into the ministry. This is probably as close as I will ever get to that. So yeah, as Stan said, we were hired a little over a year ago to come in and do an assessment of the aquatics building as well as the adjacent middle school, but also then to look at the park down below, to look at its attributes and the condition of it, and then to come back with kind of a report on the condition of those, but at the same time how to take the aquatic center and show how possibly it could grow into a community center and what that would mean. And so our process was, step one was to do as you mentioned, do the assessment of the facilities.
Assessment's better than investigate.
There you go. Well, but we did go in underneath the building and understand about it. And so what we learned in doing so, as you imagine, is that the pool building is really showing its age. The aquatic systems, as we call them, for the pool are on their last leg, so they're in need of replacement.
Aaron's trying to get in.
You sure you want to come in? The mechanical systems for the building as well to provide the air into the building are in need of replacement. And then as you can see, that the building envelope also needs some TLC. At the same time, we looked at the middle school, and was there any elements of that were worth renovating and keeping as part of this? Because it's not uncommon for us to take an old school building and see how can we reuse it and quite often turn it into a community center. What we learned in looking at the building is because of its age and the need by code to seismically upgrade it, and its systems were pretty deteriorated, that we concluded very quickly that to spend more money to try and renovate it wasn't a good use of tax dollars. And so when we started our concept design for this, we looked at removing the middle school and then how could you eventually take the aquatic center and grow it into a community center. And when we look at the program elements for the community center, typically we're looking at gym space, we're looking at weight and fitness space, we're looking at community rooms that can be rented for, you know, wedding receptions or any kind of gathering. What we also did, kind of on parallel tracks to this assessment, was we had several, quite a few user group sessions with different community groups to assess what are the needs for the community to help us build the program for what we were going to propose. And so we spent, I think it was about 2 days interviewing. I think we had 6 or 8 different groups, which was great. The turnout for those was phenomenal. We got some really good feedback. And so that helped us develop kind of the concepts of where we're at now. What we've done, and I think it's online now, is that kind of the summary and the recap of our whole effort is in this report. And so it covers in detail the conditions of the pool, the conditions of the buildings, and then the feedback from the community, meeting minutes from those activities, and then the drawings that we're going to be talking about in a little bit. Any questions about, I mean, I'm going pretty quick here through our process.
That's okay.
Good.
Okay. Aaron, who's with Walker Macy Landscape Architects, worked with us at the same time relative to the park. Maybe you want to talk a little about the park process before we go into our drawing.
Yeah, just really briefly, as we all know, what it currently looks like, probably everybody in the community. It's been well used in the past, we'll say. And so with this opportunity, with this re-looking at the aquatic center, it seems like it just made sense to take a look at the park as well, since it's no longer used for middle school. And so what we did was,
We're going to do a two-part here, right?
Okay.
Limited space.
Just to give us an overview.
Yeah.
It just seemed like a great opportunity to start to look at the potential for a future park or just public space, outdoor public space. So we'll step through that, but with those early meetings, it was great to talk to the outreach to some of the community members to see, and we've got a board right here that's not visible to a lot of you, but
We also have it up on the television screen.
Yeah, we'll be putting them up here as we talk.
So we're able to hear from the community and hear what your guys' thoughts were to what is possible, what you guys may like to see out there. So that was really neat to get that input, and then from there we started to come up with a few concepts, work with the city, and shared those concepts. And there's a lot of potential out there, and the really cool thing from my perspective is there's a really unique opportunity to connect the downtown to this future aquatic center rehab project, but further onto green space beyond the forest, down the river. Potential for that. I think just that big picture is a really unique opportunity.
And typically when we do a lot of community centers, and we'll talk about, and typically it's a challenge to be able to afford to do the entire thing right at the start. So it's usually a phased approach. And usually the number one challenge most of these community centers have is adjacent green space. And that's what was so great about this project is you've got it right there. It's now let's plan it and figure out how you want to use it in the future. Because more and more it's having adjacent field spaces or different outdoor activity spaces adjacent to the community center. That really makes for a good vibrant mix of indoor-outdoor activities.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to work through these plans really quickly. If you want to look up on the monitors as well, it's a little bit smaller. This right here, so I just straight click. So what we did is these plans represent a completed building. And what it was is this is your existing pool. The middle school is over here. This is showing it removed. And so the long-term vision for the facility would be to take your existing pool and then eventually add on to it, as I mentioned, with a recreation. So this is the existing pool now that we use for recreation and for competition. The goal would be to eventually add on just a standalone rec pool, so you'd have two pools. And that's pretty typical in most of the aquatic facilities. Along with that, then, you'd have a central office area, you'd have multi-purpose and activity spaces, as well as in 2 stories. Because of the site is sloping, we end up with what ends up being a 3-story building. And it's a little challenging to visualize because your sidewalk is really almost a level up on here. And so what we'd end up with is a 2 or 3-story building, depending upon where you are on the site. And it just works its way towards the back. And so we'd have the 2 pools up front with a lot of visual connectivity in relationship to the street, a main entry, and then a long corridor that goes back that then starts to knit together all the multi-purpose and flexible spaces. And then at the very end would be a gym. And what we're showing here would be a 2-court gym. And so that was the big vision for the whole facility. When we looked at, when we looked at how would we start to think about phasing this, we took a real conservative approach where the first phase would be you would just take your existing aquatic center now and we would renovate it, which means we'd replace the pool systems. We would have to do a significant amount of work to the mechanical systems that provide air to the pool. We'd look at probably punching some holes that right now there's very little daylight that gets into the pool itself. We want to open that up a bit, put some windows in there so we can get some daylight. But essentially, we keep the facility the way it is now. Tanya's done a great job, it looks like we've got a lot of swimmers here, of going in and
Oh, and young.
yeah, going in, you know, and really doing a nice job on the inside. And fresh paint and a lot of cleanup work in there. And so we'd like to kind of piggyback on that initial effort and now just upgrade the systems to keep the pool functioning the way it does now. The second phase then would be looking to add on the rec pool. But again, this is all, in a sense, this is a little bit hypothetical because typically we see these phases, depending upon funding, might be every 3 to 5 years you add on to that. And we know, community needs start to change a little bit as well. And so the second phase would be adding on to the existing pool, the rec pool. And then we also start to get some central office functions to go with that and improve parking. Then the third phase is where we start to add on the fitness spaces, the multi-purpose rooms, and even possibly the gym at the back. And so what we're showing here is kind of a 3-phase approach to how you could grow into the facility and fund it, basically. At the same time, with each of these phases, you'll see we have to continue to expand parking. This code tells us how many spaces we need for the facility. And so that was kind of our initial thought on how we could phase the project. You know, it could be over a 10-year period, it could be over a 15-year period, that really becomes kind of up to you. And then we started to look at what some of the, I don't have images here, but you'll see on some simple massing of what it means for the facility and how we start to bring daylight in. We have a lot of, one of the great things about your site is it's going north and south. and the ability to bring north light into the building is the best kind of daylight we would want. And so the ability to have high windows that allow us to bring daylight in to these big spaces into both the pools and the gym is a real asset.
Council, feel free to ask questions.
Yeah, any questions so far?
I have a question.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
What would be your potential timeline for the first phase? How long would that take to complete?
You know, if we were said start work tomorrow, it would take us probably 6 to 8 months to do the design and the documents, and then probably a similar amount of time for construction. Probably a year and a half to 2 years.
For parking spaces, how do you plan to fit in the cars once this program gets started and you get more people coming in and joining the facility? Are you gonna have tier parking?
You know, the initial couple phases, no. Depending upon how big the facility eventually gets, you maybe have to do that. But because we have the real estate from where the middle school sits now, we should be able to get through the first couple phases without having to add.
Is there any additional parking in the lower field?
Right now, we're not showing, I mean, it's always a possibility, but we're trying to preserve. Aaron wants a little bit of room left in order to do some fun landscape stuff.
But I think to answer that question though, in this diagram, I don't know if you have an overlay of where the skate park currently is, so folks can see where all that additional parking would be added in this diagram. It's helpful to be able to see, I don't know how many spaces, 101 spaces in that lower parking area.
Yeah, so just to give you guys an idea, I can trim this. Yeah, the existing skate park is roughly right down here. Down here. Hopefully you can see the screen, you guys back behind the boards here. So yeah, and I can talk about that in a second. So the bulk of the park, not the lower portions along the street, I'll talk about why that is.
Have you investigated the increased traffic flow for the residents that are on that side?
Sorry, what was?
The residents
Yeah.
that are on the opposite side and the traffic flow as this builds up, have you considered the problems with traffic flow?
Yeah, we haven't got into a traffic study yet as part of this, this study. But that would certainly be something to.
That'd be the next phase.
Yeah, that would be the next.
Right now, our effort is a pretty high
I
level
understand it's
concept.
three phases.
So the pool would be closed while you do the drawings and the parking surveys.
While we're in design, the pool could remain open.
Okay,
It's only when we start construction do we have to.
or deconstruction.
That's true. Why don't we let Aaron get through this, and then we can come back and have questions.
One question,
Yeah.
as talking about deconstruction, as you go through the phases, you didn't describe what buildings had to go down as you go along. I'm assuming that we wouldn't tear them all down at once, or are we saying we would tear them all down?
No,
the beginning.
In phase one, you don't have to touch anything.
Right, so all the
Yeah.
buildings, the gym and the two larger buildings, including the underground one, all stay up, is that right? And phase two, you'd be tearing down as you build?
We phase two, depending upon what the actual scope of that is, they could remain as well.
Okay.
That's where we get into the parking analysis to say, okay, with this two-pool complex, how much parking do we need, and do we have enough current space? That probably becomes the driver of when you have to start to take down buildings on the site.
So it's mostly that long string of multi-use buildings that would be constructed that would get in the way of the current gym and some of the back building where all the Sandy Net people are now, and it used to be the old library. All that would go down at that third phase.
Most likely, yeah.
Or you might want to clarify about the back building. You didn't really talk about the back
The
building.
bunker building?
Underground.
Sorry.
That's okay, I'll use your So right now, there's a building back here. And we call it the bunker building because it's gonna survive anything. What we did is we looked at it, and it actually has the ability to adaptively reuse it. And so it could stay in its two-story form now. That's that addition onto the middle school. Or you could take the top off of it and use, because it's all a concrete structure, we could pull the second story off, and then you could use it to park on top of it. You could use it for outdoor market space, or different, activities or receptions, and it provides a really neat overlook into the park. And so we spent a lot of time taking a look at that. That was the one building that we looked at, and we said, we can see some really cool adaptive reuses for it. And structurally, it made a lot more sense than the existing wood frame middle school. Thanks.
So just really quick, I wanted to back up and, because I did mention it already, some of the early outreach efforts that we did. And what we really learned in those efforts was that we have a very diverse population in Sandy. Very young, a lot of school children, all the way up to retired folks. So, and this sort of captures all of that population of you guys in terms of activities and what we're starting to think about what could happen down in the park space. So we're everything from very active recreation, a lot of bike pump track type activity came up in those early conversations, events, spaces for weddings, concerts, even potentially hosting Sandy Mountain Days events, that type of stuff, Oktoberfest, farmers market, enhancing the garden space. There's existing garden space down there now, to incorporating trails, future trails into the park, and then also to the north and beyond. And then also just more flexible spaces than typical park spaces, like playgrounds, a dog park potentially as part of it, and then just open flexible lawn yard spaces. So really trying to get a lot out of this space. There's a lot of acreage down there that could be really put to good use. So this is our just sort of big picture overall, very zoomed out conceptual thinking at this stage. And again, we went back and forth with the city and folks in the community numerous times to get to this concept. It's one concept and can be, massaged and fit to everybody's needs. But what we're looking at generally is sort of this concept of looking at the upper field and the lower field. And then also thinking about event spaces within that. So this upper field and lower field concept sort of splits the activities a little bit in terms of types of use. The upper field we thought was more suitable for families, smaller program uses, things that make sense. They're more accessible from the street. That's very easily surveyable by police late at night if they just doing their rounds. It's a lot of the typical park activities would happen up there. And then also just very accessible for people to come in. There's a drop off, get right in the park, get to the garden, get to the playground, basketball courts, new skate park. And they're thinking about a welcoming type plaza too. So when you show up, it's very welcoming and it's very obvious where you would go to enter the park. And then thinking about the other part of this overall concept, the lower field, tend to want to be more of an active type programmatically space. So down there, you have your large flexible field. It could be turned into a sports field, a soccer field. We're thinking about it in terms of not necessarily painting stripes on the field, because we did hear a lot of feedback from the community about, as soon as you do that, it kind of eliminates the ability to do other things sometimes, and vice versa. So in the end, you could paint stripes on it, but right now, the thought is that it's just a big, open, flexible field. The other program elements down here, again, a very active type of concept down here in this area, is thinking about tucking in a challenge course, so more adult type active use, and thinking about this as an exercise track or loop, not necessarily a track, but a course itself. Maybe there's pull-offs where you can have some exercise equipment. That's getting kind of popular, that outdoor exercise equipment idea. So this would be maybe even a more advanced type activity, obstacles, that kind of thing. And then your bike activity, bike pump track or loop up in that area. And that kind of keeps that type of activity somewhat separated from the more family-like activities up here on the upper field. And then from there, another phase, and I'll show you the phases quickly after this, in terms of what we're thinking at this stage, would be incorporating this event space. So thinking about potentially hosting weddings, again, concerts maybe. We're looking at an amphitheater in this area, so it really takes advantage of that large slope that comes down right behind the middle school right now. And maybe building in some tiered or terraced seating, concrete benches, that sort of thing, and really reworking the landscape there to accommodate that type of activity. But it could also be used, people could hang out there when it's just nice weather. It doesn't necessarily have to be an event. And then within that slope, understanding the slopes, there's some really big challenges in terms of ADA accessibility and just accessing that lower portion of the site. So bringing in these long, gentle, sloped walkways that get you down into that site without having to navigate big stairs and that type of thing. And then the other thought was up near that lower bunker building, potentially where that existing playground is between the bunker building and the grade school. That could be potentially just an event space itself. It could tie into the building if there's a lower level of use in that existing building that made sense to host or cater events. You could usually spill out into an outdoor space type of thing. Or it could just, again, be a non-active outdoor space to lounge. And then again, there would be some accessible routes on the east side of the building as well to get you down to and from this parking lot. So you could park down here at this lower lot and come up to the aquatic center. That's sort of the big picture, and then I can Mark, unless you have something to.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I can just jump through the phasing. So as Mark did on the building, in terms of the park, flip this to. So phase one and phase two, we thought it would make sense to start here at the upper field in the parking, the proposed parking. Do that as your phase one. That way you're sort of, a lot of you could potentially even stage down this area, have an access route down there and stage, but you could stage parts of this and fill out this area, and then you have a full parking lot, upper park, where most of your activity would end up being anyway. So that could be built out first without even touching this lower field. And then you would move down to that lower field and demo out the existing track and that field and start to get in this walkable loop. So people could immediately get down there and do a nice walking loop, incorporate new landscape features to make it just a nicer, softer walk when it's nice out. And then eventually you could have a trail that connects out down to the forest, to the river, potentially. From there, phase three, we would look at doing the work up towards the buildings. So building out that event type space, the amphitheater, the event spill out space from that lower bunker building. So build out that way you can then access directly from the aquatic center down to the lower field. And that would be completed at that point. And then the final phase of the park, you would build out the remaining area of that lower field to incorporate that active challenge course or adult or older child obstacle course. And that could be sprinkled with landscape features as part of the course, or it could just be a more prescribed obstacle course. That's to be determined. But the idea is that this is more of an active space. And it sort of allows the park. The other piece about this and incorporating the active spec here is it really keeps that portion of the park that's kind of back house, keep it active and people ingrained and in tune with that area of the park instead of just kind of moving it back there. Those are the phases, and they don't necessarily, those aren't necessarily tied to the building per se. They can be, but
Yeah,
as you can see, they
Depending
can be
upon
separate.
your needs and your priorities, they can be engaged or they can be disengaged. And that was one of the other kind of unique things about this, is the ability to do that quite often. It's a little challenging to do that here. It was real easy to see how, depending upon your priorities, what do you want to do first, and how you want to. And this is just one proposed approach to phasing. Quite often we do a study, and you may do phase one, and then phase two may be a different arrangement, just because, then, as I mentioned earlier, the needs have changed slightly.
Okay.
Questions?
I have a question, if nobody else does. I guess I'll be the voice here. One of the busier parks, I wouldn't say the busiest, but one of the busy parks that we have is the skate park that is underneath some of these plannings. And if we decided we wanted to include another skate park of some kind, where might that be positioned in your plan?
It's in here.
Yeah, so
It's in there.
the dance. So at this level, we've gone back and forth in a couple different locations, talking to the community and with the city. Right now, where in this concept, we've landed with it in the northern portion of this upper field. Although I understand there's, we have yet to find the most ideal location for it. But that's one thought. I think if it did go up here, we would think about doing some heavy vegetation, some screening efforts, just knowing that there are some neighbors just across
Residential
the
right
street.
there.
The reality is too, is that there is some drop in grading between there and this area of the park, and the grading would change in the park a little bit. This could be sunken down slightly, so you'd have a little bit of a separation, but yeah, we have yet to land on the perfect spot,
Sure.
but that's where it's at right now.
And the same question about the existing skate park. It wouldn't need to be dismantled until towards the end of or in the third phase, correct? Or not correct?
Right, so that until this portion of the site, yeah, so it could be separate from the building phasing, for sure.
Could you-
But it's phase one in the
Yes.
landscaping plans.
Right. Would you indicate where it is
Yeah,
currently?
again, this existing skate park comes out right about where this tongue of its new driveway would be, so right in this area. So yes, as soon as you touch this, it would be.
Right.
Yeah.
Councilor Hamlin, did you have a question?
And yeah, the skate park has been something of a challenge, because I understand it could be rehabilitated too in place, and that would just slightly change where you would enter this park. So that's always an option as well.
Okay.
Any other questions from committee members?
No, I feel like
It's a rerun for
several of
some,
us
and
have
others
read the
it's new.
report several times
Yeah.
and kind of heard different
I'll throw you a
presentations.
softball. How
Yeah.
much does it cost?
Yeah.
You know, we talked about that a fair amount 6 months ago.
Yeah.
A lot has changed in 6 months. The market's gotten unfortunately worse, and right now, sure, we could put some dollars to this, but we know that it would change again in 6 months. And so the order of magnitude is still quite significant.
Yeah, go ahead.
The projected study on how much revenue something like this would bring to the city.
That, we work with a special consultant called Ballard and King,
So
and
is that included in the cost that you
not yet, that's one of the,
offset that by the revenue that comes in?
that's one of the next steps
Okay.
for us. And just so you understand, with community centers, clearly the aquatic side is the most expensive to operate and build. From a revenue standpoint, revenue generation, the highest revenue generation for a facility comes from memberships. And so typically your fitness spaces, your multi-purpose spaces where people come to do yoga and other activities, those rank very highly. So if you're looking at building a facility and you want to maximize revenue coming in the door early, you want to look at those spaces that'll do that.
So you're saying the aquatic center isn't a moneymaker?
It,
So it could be pitched out if somebody doesn't like the idea 6 months from
no,
now?
it brings revenue in, but it's the most expensive to operate. And so typically most pools operate in the red, and it takes revenue from the community to support it. And
It
so
also brings revenue into the city though, because I'm a swim grandma, and I
Yeah.
know that there are sometimes 700 to 800 participants in swim meets, and that would bring a lot of revenue to the city of Sandy.
you bet.
And that's what, just to be clear, that's what our public comment section will be for as well. So, questions? Yeah,
So your
Kathleen?
model would be like similar to the East Portland Community Center as far as what you're visualizing for this, similar to that?
Similar. About a year and a half ago, we did a very similar study for Hood River. And their pool, almost like yours, is aging, and they have a temporary bubble cover on it. And it was very similar results of, yeah, your systems need to be replaced. And if you want to increase revenue, because right now it's purely aquatics, you start to add some of the fitness type spaces onto it. So that they're in the same situation. They're looking at, okay, what are our needs and what do we think they can afford?
Kathleen?
Speaking of the East Community Center, I have, I've been there a little bit, but some other friends of mine have gone, and it's a fabulous center, so I encourage folks to go visit it. One of the things, just because kind of gives you the idea of what this could be, one of the things that did catch my eye though, because when I was looking at the plans, there's like 300 plus parking spots. And I went on to the Google Maps, I know, online, and I counted the parking spots for the East Portland Community Center, and they have like 136. And so I was just curious as to why, I kind of am concerned about how much of the area is taken up for parking. And maybe, if that's a result of our internal code, maybe we could be a little bit more business friendly and, reconsider that or something. I just didn't know, it just seems like a lot of parking spaces.
Yeah,
If East Portland can get away with 136.
It becomes dictated by code. At the same time, like the comments earlier, you don't want it to spill out into the neighborhoods. And so it's always kind of that balancing act, but usually we comply with code and then we do an assessment of, so, okay, here's what your local code says we should have. We're doing this right now with Hillsborough. We have a new facility we're designing for them. City of Hillsborough says, here's how many parking spaces you need to provide. And then Parks Department came back and said, we'd like 50 more, just because we know what's gonna happen. And so that's what we're looking at now, is how to get them and make adjustments to the code so they can have more. And so there's kind of some push and pull there, and it all comes down to kind of the assessment and how you phase yourself into it, relative to how much parking it'll take.
Well, East Portland is an urban facility, and a huge portion of the population that uses that facility either lives right in the immediate area or can get buses there, and that's a real different dynamic. They don't need as much parking because so many of the people either walk or commute by bus or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, John?
Is the seating capacity expected in the amphitheater as well too?
I don't know that we've calculated. We may have roughly at one point, but I would, if I'm recalling what we did, one calculation we did, I think it's around 200. Yeah.
So did you have cost parameters for this evening, or was it, or no?
we went back and in your packet is a breakdown by phase. And so in looking at the phases that we show here.
And were these numbers from several months ago?
These can be on the screen.
Yeah, if you guys scroll all the way to the bottom.
Be hard to read though.
It's okay.
Yeah,
But
Can
I
we
also
zoom it in?
I also noticed though that this just starts with phase 3.
yeah.
Jordan, Control Plus.
Something's missing here.
There we go.
As much as I'd like to have someone else pay for phases 1 and 2.
Yeah, so I've got the updated ones here in my manual.
Okay.
Phase 1, which was just maintaining the existing aquatic center, replacing the aquatic systems, replacing the mechanical electrical systems in the building, doing a fair amount of repair to the building envelope, the roof and the walls, and bringing in daylight, was right around $10 million. And that was kind of an original target we were given in working with Kim. Of, okay, hey, what would it take to maintain the existing building?
So that's just to have the pool as is.
And replace the system so they're good for another 20 years.
Okay.
The second phase, which would be adding a 2-story addition onto that had new and improved locker rooms, some multi-purpose spaces, and a new recreation pool. That was about $23.5 million.
Okay.
So it takes a pretty significant jump.
For that's phase 2.
That's phase 2. And then the last phase, which was the gym and adding some more multi-purpose spaces on the building, was about another 20. So all told,
That includes the landscaping and all that stuff too, or no?
around the building, that's just the building, not the park.
Not the park.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's close to about 55.
So we're at 55, and then what about the landscaping?
9 million.
Phased in,
Yeah, it looks like the 9 total
yeah.
Nine?
Right.
Okay.
10.
between, yeah, including all 4 phases.
So if you took the building and the park together, would be about today's dollars,
Right.
65.
about 65.
So a couple questions. So one is, let's say that it took us a while to get to those kinds of figures, right? So current usage of the Cedar Ridge Middle School. I know Counselor Pete Soltz has some questions in the past. Several of us who have kids that play sports, athletics. There's a gym in there. It's a
Yes.
pretty nice. It works, right? Works for our
Yeah.
community.
Yeah, it's a cute little gym.
Yeah. What is holding us back from being able to open up that facility, at least on a temporary basis, till we figure out what we're doing, to be able to offer athletics and stuff into that gymnasium? Kind of goes back to the beginning, but
Correct.
current use.
Nothing from our perspective.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're not. I guess it's more of a building inspection deal, but so you're not seeing ADA problems and those kinds of things,
Yeah,
or what?
the building has some significant challenges.
Right.
We looked really hard at, can we keep the gym and try and utilize it in a new facility? And because of the gym is at a mid-level in that the building steps itself down the hill too. So because the gym's at a mid-level, it's from an ADA standpoint, handicap access standpoint, it's a real challenge.
Right.
And the entire building is.
Yeah.
Because of the grade changes. So yeah, if you were gonna use that facility, you'd have to make some decisions about how much upgrading you wanted to do.
And I think it's probably outside your scope of work, because when we hired you, we were dreaming, right? We wanted the kind of the full project. But was there any cost parameters or anything kind of around just like access to that building and being able to just use it temporarily, get it up to
No,
a usable rate?
We did.
Yeah.
Once we deemed, it's the ability to upgrade is gonna be cost prohibitive very quickly.
Yep.
That at that point
the committee we were working with all agreed, okay, you know what, this is, as we move forward, it's better to pull the building down,
Yeah.
utilize the space for parking and build new onto the aquatic center.
So then I'd like to investigate the 10 million figure to keep the pool as is, because I've had some conversations where, and I have a statement I'm going to read tonight that I put out in the community that had the figure around $3 million, right? So what are, I mean, so when we throw a number out there like 10 million just to have the pool operationally, what are we talking about? Where's that money going?
Well, the systems for the pool, the aquatic systems themselves,
Yeah.
complete replacement of all those systems. They're aging. I'm sure your maintenance costs each year continue to climb. And so it'd be complete replacement of those systems and the piping. And part of the big cost of that is the piping that's under the concrete deck that you walk on, it's corroded, it needs to be replaced. And so you end up tearing up a significant amount of the majority of the pool deck inside the building to access those pipes. And so that's a pretty significant cost in the aquatic upgrades.
And so people, a lot of the questions we're asking is because we're going to have another meeting Tuesday where we got to take all this information and kind of figure out what in the heck we're going to do, right? So please don't get worried with some of these questions. Some, I just need to collect some information here. We completely knocked down the existing building, and we decided to build a new swimming pool. Is it really going to be cost prohibitive? I mean, is it really? Does it make more sense to rehab the current building rather than just build a new aquatic facility with state-of-the-art plumbing and HVACs? I know someone who's really kind of into, U.S. Swim, and if you work with a U.S. Swim organization, they have specs that you can kind of build these things that become more cost prohibitive. Not prohibitive, cost in the
Control.
good. What am I looking at? In the good, control,
Yeah.
right? So what if what are the cost differences between building a new pool versus upgrading the current pool?
Great question.
Yeah.
I didn't bring the detailed numbers with me. Quite often what we're seeing now, if it's not an aquatic center, say your middle school, for example, what we're finding is to repurpose a general purpose building like a middle school, because we're doing this now with a lot of school districts, is that if your building systems are needing replacement, mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems are 50, 60 years old, it's time to replace them, and you need to seismically upgrade the building, then it's more cost effective to pull it down and build new. That existing building is only worth about $50 a square foot, where a new facility costs $400 a square foot to build. An aquatic center is a little bit different because of those pool systems. If, in this case, because the tank of the pool is still in good shape, and that's usually the key element with an aquatic center of whether to pull the whole thing down and build new versus renovate it. If the tank's in relatively good shape, which yours is, then it becomes a stronger candidate to renovate it. If the tank is not, and we've just finished a study, I mentioned Hood River, their tank is not. And so their approach was, the results of their study was, we need to replace the whole thing. And so a lot comes down to the quality of that tank. And so we have an aquatic specialist that worked with us on the study.
So a lot of communities are facing what we are, just with infrastructure, period, right? But a lot have these public aquatic centers, swimming pools, Hood River, right? And they're at a point where they're having to have these kinds of meetings and figure out what the future is going to be. Back to a point made earlier on just economic development. I know we didn't do a study on that. That would be kind of the next phase. But you have experience doing these kinds of projects. I mean, there's not that many, a lot of communities are leaving their pools behind. And so that, though, from a market analysis tells me that there could be a vacuum to fill by offering an aquatic facility where other communities don't have it for their meets. So maybe we're able to reach out and grab some of that business and bring it in. Am I thinking down the right path there, or is that maybe exists but just doesn't really pencil out at the end of the day without having a recreational type center attached to it? What does that look like?
Yeah, that was part of our initial assessment that, and you'll see in the report that Ballard and King did, is we look at two things. One, we look at, Ken looks at pools in the area. At the same time, looks at the catchment area it takes to support a facility. And that's really important, because if your catchment area is too small, you're not gonna have the revenue and the patronage and the usage that you really need. And so the greater Sandy community is definitely large enough to support typically what we, in doing these studies, an aquatic center. You know, your closest one's gonna be Mountain Hood Community College, probably. Right. And then Hood River. And so that's an important component of looking at how is this community large enough to support a facility. But yeah, one of the next steps for this well could be in working with Ballard and King to do a deeper dive into kind of the operating costs and the economics of a facility.
Oh, Jen. Yeah.
Yes. Are you seeing, as you address pools and rec centers in other areas, that park district boards are able to support these? Or do you really have to go out and bond the whole thing?
You mean the construction cost?
Yeah. Could you set up a park board, for example, that would be a district that would be able to fund things like this?
Districts are a definite advantage from an operating cost standpoint, because you have significant more revenue. Most of the construction typically is funded by a bond, just because that's a lot of cash to come up with. You know, even the 10 million, we realize what that means for most communities, and so typically we see going out to the community with a bond.
Okay. I see a hand. Go ahead.
Was there, I got just a couple related into one. Wasn't the school and the pool put on a bond or part of the gas tax to support the pool?
No. Well, so it's in my statement, but I'll just kind of here. Let me.
More to come.
Yeah. So let me just kind of scroll down here to where the crux of it is, and I think it allows some past history, kind of how we got here today.
I want to know if you're going to goof the pool now. What's to say you guys go, oh,
yeah, right.
What's down the road? That has bothered me more than anything.
Yeah, sure.
That the high school did it.
Yeah.
We're not got a bond measure.
Yeah.
There was money allocated for the pool.
Yeah.
The board and the superintendent decided to take the money out and use it for everything. Yeah. What's to say you guys aren't going to do the same thing? And is the money from that bond that was allocated towards the pool for the pool?
Yeah.
Why is it not being used for the pool?
You're talking the school bond?
Nope, I'm talking the tax. My understanding is the city went out and said, we want to buy the pool and the school buildings for the community.
Yep.
Okay, so the city residents said yes.
No. No.
This is through urban growth.
So here, let me just kind of back up, okay? So 2014, right? The 2014. This is after the new high school.
Yep.
The bonds passed. It's built. We have a brand new high school facility in our community without an aquatics facility, right? Just like you said, they don't build the pool.
They took the money that was allocated and used it for something else. That doesn't mean it wasn't included.
Understand? No, I understand, but no pool, right? No pool is part of the new high school. Okay.
Not even maintenance.
I understand. So Oregon Trail School District in 2014, they announced that they're going to close the pool. In response, at the time, Mayor Bill King created a task force to investigate the feasibility, right? The city of Sandy to purchase and save the pool.
Right.
And save the pool along with the additional 37 acres that make up the Cedar Ridge School, all of that, okay?
Yep.
The task force comes forward and recommends that the best option for the city of Sandy would be to use urban renewal funds, okay?
Okay.
So urban renewal funds is you create an urban renewal district.
Okay.
And those are money that you capture that ordinarily go to the state government for the legislature and the governor sign right, and gets transferred back for us to use for projects in our community. Okay? So we decide. So at that time, the task force says the best way is to take those urban renewal funds, we have a pot of money,
Okay.
and use that to get debt financing.
Okay,
Okay, so that we can purchase the pool and then do everything we want. That was around $10 million, okay? The task force says, all right, the plan that you use in Newburgh and other communities is you upgrade that pool, and then you use the rest of it to develop one of these multi-generational gym deals. Those make money, unlike municipal pools, but together it all starts to pencil out. Okay,
yeah.
couple things happen. One, it ain't $10 million. It's in the vicinity of a $60 to $1 million project. For the whole project. Okay, so the landscaping was $9 million. Okay, so then we're looking at about $50 million for the overall gymnasium. Matched with that task force, the task force always knew the operations of the pool was going to be hard. So they recommended a nominal fee of $3 to $7 onto the utility bill, which would then go towards the operations of the pool.
Yes, because I pay out of resident fees.
Right. Couple things that happened there. One, I don't know if it was a lack of leadership or feasibility. The fee never gets implemented. Never got implemented. No utility fee between $3 to $7.
Who's in charge of that?
City council is. City council mayor never implement a fee that then goes towards pool operations. Okay, just what happened. I'm just giving the past history here. The $10 million still exists. We still have, I don't know, somewhere in the vicinity of 7 to 8. Some of it went towards the pool and revamping it and stuff. But the budget now, we're out of whack. We don't have, we have a $70 million, 50, 70. We have a big project that's more than $10 million.
Phase 1 is the pool. Right now, that's what I'm concerned
I understand.
The rest of it is a dream.
Okay, fine. But then here's what we're left at, okay? And we got to get to public comment, but what we're left at then, okay, is a $10 million renovated pool that we heard here tonight that sucks out the rest of the money, that gives us the exact same pool that we have today. Better bones, operates for 20 additional years, and maybe finally that kiddie pool can be warm, right, instead of cold. And the showers come out a little bit better. But it still attracts people only to a rate that leads to an annual deficit of $365,000 a year, which could feasibly be made up in a utility bill, a utility fee of $3 to $7. But here's some things that have happened in our community since that was talked about from council at that time. One is we have nearly a $500,000 deficit in our police budget. This is for a police, just $500,000 to get to where they currently operate.
So that's part of the urban renewal.
Well, it's part of urban renewal. Just to back up, we get all these buckets. It gets confusing. I apologize, but urban renewal dollars. Well, I am sometimes. Urban renewal money can only go towards brick and mortar capital improvements. Okay, so we've got to make up the money that runs out of deficit and operational somewhere. That has to come out of our general fund, which we had planned originally to drive that money from a utility bill fee of $3 to $7 that we would use for the operations of the pool.
So when is this fee going into effect?
Well, so that's what I was trying to explain. That's what I'm trying to explain is when you look at the priorities that we have in place right now, we have a police budget that's $500,000 in debt. This is just to get back to operations. Their operations, even at operations, doesn't have 2 officers going at all times. So between certain times of the day, if there's a robbery, a domestic dispute, a stabbing, we have 1 officer who's responding to that. We need 2, so they've got to wait for Clackamas County Sheriff's Department or State Patrol to come. The counselor, Lori Smallwood from the fire department will tell you, fire and ambulance show up to the scene of a medical crisis. They got to wait for police to secure that scene. They're left waiting for backup while the person bleeds out before they can even go in. In addition, DEQ by 20, and I don't think this is getting out into the community. DEQ by 2024 is requiring this community to get a new wastewater treatment facility that's going to be in the excess of $60 to $80 million. That is a utility rate increase between $40 and $90 a month. Now think about your neighbors. Think about the kids that your children go to school with and their families and what they're going to have to pay and to take on that. In addition to us trying to get a police force and public safety up to where it needs to be, that's what's weighing. Excuse me, ma'am, but that is what's weighing on
that toilet. You don't care because you're going to take this money from here, spend it over here, and goof this one.
Excuse me, but she doesn't even live in the city of Sandy, and it would be helpful if the actual
I
residents
pay
were.
to use the facilities
I
in this
understand,
town.
but we're subsidizing the heck out of people like that. And nothing personal, I'm glad you have it to use, but I would like this meeting.
Oh, just different residents?
No, not.
Yeah. So hold on. Let's get to decorum. And I went off too. It's an emotional issue. Many of you, my old water polo coach is in the audience. Guys, I played with. I mean, we all want the pool, right? We
got a team right here.
Thank you. Well, thank you. And I think the presentation's done. We're going to open up to public comment, and I'm not going to go through my spiel. I think I just kind of gave the feel of what's facing us, right? But what I would like to say though is that we are putting forward a path for a pool, and I think that in all of this, I think that gets lost. None of us want to have a temporary closure of the pool. What's really pushing that, quite honestly, is trying to figure out this police budget and knowing that it runs in this annual deficit and trying to find a way to make that up. We're trying to figure out priorities here and knowing what's coming down the pike of this wastewater treatment deal that is being required, and we got to flush the toilets, right? I mean, it's a core function of government. But all this passion in the room, this is what we're going to need when we put this on the ballot, because this council is fully committed to pushing forward on a plan that provides this community with an aquatic center. But we have to be able to go out and find the funds to do it. And we've got to take the presentation that was given to us. That's why we always had them coming in before the announcement, so that we could hear all the different phases and everything else that was planned, and so that we could meet and have a dialogue next week where we can give our staff direction on different ways, whether it's a bond, whether it's a recreational district similar to that of a library district or a school district that could use money and help with the operations of the pool. But our task here is to provide the community with a path forward for an aquatic center that we can all pay for. We're going to need your help to do that. In the wake of the new high school, we hear a lot from people in this community that property taxes are too high. We will hear a lot about the utility bill. And we're going to have to work together to go door to door and to campaign for it, similar to what those parents did with the new high school, to get that passed in this community. And we're not going to put something out there and just let it fail. That's not what we're looking to do. We're committed to putting something out there that we can advocate for as a community to get it passed. So that's where we're at today. So if you've signed up, what we're going to do is if we could push the podium out.
Just go down the list.
What's
Sign-up
that?
sheet. Go down the list.
Yeah, maybe what we'll do is we'll start down the list of the sign-up sheet.
We have that.
I know.
Jeremy,
Like, should I
can you
try?
grab the sign-up sheet?
Sure.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, you guys.
Are we good?
I
think so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Do they have a flash drive?
No.
Could you get their presentation?
Yeah, we have it.
So before we start, Mr. Mayor, I see a lot of people waving their hands over their faces. Are we too hot? We need to reduce.
Carl, it's usually freezing in here. Now you're complaining about it.
I'm just trying to be aware. I see people waving hands in front of their faces. Anybody say anything?
I know.
You okay? Are you okay?
I think we've,
Oh, sure. Come on in.
We gotta have more people every night when it's so cold.
I feel in the warmth, but then not too bad.
All right. All right, everybody. All right, what we're going to do, yeah, Scott, you're first up. So we're going to spend the next hour here with public testimony. We're looking for 3 minutes a person. I'm going to start down this list. If you didn't sign up, that's fine. When I get through the list, simply raise your hand and I'll call on you. Okay. First up, of course, my old water polo coach. You're up.
Counselor, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I've been an aquatic director at 2 different facilities. One was private, one was public. We operated those facilities during a number of years. Operated during the Measure 5 crisis that went on in the 80s. Communities throughout the country have experienced the exact same thing. So we get down to how do we function and where do we go from here. A swimming pool is an investment, and it's an expensive investment whether we operate it or not. The idea of just closing it down is impossible because it's still going to cost you money. You can't just empty a pool and leave it because it will ruin the shell. There's an ongoing expense in running it. The city spends funds cleaning it, repairing it, getting up to standard, and right now it's operational. Yes, it does need work, but it's an ongoing problem that can be addressed while we continue usage. The Aquatic Center is a real asset to the community. It draws in lots of people. It's a very positive experience for lots of people, and it's an important part of our community. People inside the city of Sandy, as well as outside the city of Sandy, utilize this pool. We pay for it. We rent it. We use it to the maximum as much as we can. It's a very valuable part of our community and our children's futures, because I grew up in a swimming pool, my children grew up in swimming pools, and it's just an ongoing part of all of our lives. Now, how can we reduce the funding cost? Is through more instructional thing. I agree that having classes and whatever helps bring in funds, but the learner pool itself is a gold mine. That thing can generate $1,000 a month, 3 hours a day, okay, on just 3 hours a day. So there's a lot of money that can be generated just in the learner pool without even using the shallow. I mean, you can do multiple things in that facility. So there's a lot of revenue that can be offset. No, we're not going to show a profit at that swimming pool, but there's a ratio of how much you can bring in as to how much you're expending. And so you set goals of saying, can we raise 30% of our base? Can we get back to that much? So can we draw in $100,000 and bring that figure down? And that's how swimming pools operate. We can't operate on zero budgets. It won't work. So there are always going to be deficits. How to maximize and get the most money back that you're investing into the facility. Last, the club sports also provide an opportunity where we bring a lot of people into the community. We've operated a water polo tournaments up here for the last few years. We're bringing hundreds of people. The swim club does exactly the same thing. So it's not just money coming into the pool as far as a rental fee, but it's money coming into the entire community. And that's what Sandy needs, is more people coming in and investing in our community, so it keeps our businesses going also. So trying to keep the pool open is a benefit for all of us. If we have to close, could we please minimize it? Give us a chance to reorganize and continue on with our sports programs. I know the high school is not a fan of spending money on some of their sports programs, but they're 120 hours minimum with water polo in that pool. Swimming team, a minimum, 120 hours. That's a lot of pool time you're giving up for free.
Yeah.
Now, the school district was not really willing to just give the city all the pool time they wanted if you ever asked for it. That's right. So it's got to be turned around as fair play. The school district does need to pony up for part of their expenses because all the rest of us pay the bills too. And it's only fair that we're all in this together, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. Yeah, go ahead.
Is there a current swim polo coach in the room, by chance? Yes. Do you have any idea of what your number of students are between the swim team and the polo team that currently use the pool?
I do little kid water polo right now. We're about 35 kids from age 2.5
okay.
To about 14. We just got started a couple months ago.
Okay.
So, but we plan on having 100 people in that pool real quickly.
Okay. And I'm assuming a lot of you guys are high school?
Water polo team, how many did we have?
36 combined, boys and girls, 36.
36 kids?
And then the swim team probably had about 25.
Okay.
Altogether.
Perfect.
So
Awesome.
and they're working hard.
Yeah.
These kids have kept this program grounded. Like, it's small, but they're growing. So it'd be really, really hard to lose the momentum that they have made.
And for at least the water polo team, we pretty much have to do the fundraising to support ourselves completely anyway. So
Sure, club
we
team,
greatly-
correct?
So we appreciate the fact that it was free, because yes, the school district won't help in.
We were
but
willing
we're
to
the
do
ones that,
what we could.
you know, we're the ones that have raised the money, pay for our coaches, pay for our transportation, pay for everything. So thank you for not having us pay for that as well.
Sure, sure.
But we are willing.
There's a club team.
Okay, and the high school. Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
All right, so,
Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
so then next
Sorry.
up, oh, that's fine. Next up is Hannah Grupton? Yeah, while we're waiting for you to come, Councilor Lee has a question for Jordan.
Weren't we going to have a discussion with the school district soon about paying?
Yes.
And when would that take place, do you think?
As soon as tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Mayor, one thing that did come up earlier, and I have a concern about it too, is can we get addresses with these so we can see who's in
I
district and who's not?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
First individual was City of Boring, but very active and.
I know who's got it.
Yeah.
I think everybody does.
So I did forget, please first name, last name, and your address for the record, please.
I'm Hannah Gufton. I live at 49800 Southeast Cherryville Drive. I graduated from Sandy High School in 2015. I'm now in college. I'm a student athlete for the University of South Dakota. I was given a full ride scholarship to swim there. But before I swam in college, I swam for Sandy High School. I swam for the club here. I took lessons here. I learned how to swim in that pool. It was basically my second home for me. And sorry, I'm really nervous.
It's okay.
I've also taught swim lessons there. It has given me a lot of opportunities in my life, not just through scholarships and what I did, but I met amazing people that had a huge impact on me. And I like to think that will still be there for future generations. So that was all I wanted to say is I hope it's still there for kids like these that are here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. Congratulations. That's impressive, and you represent our community. Thank you for that. Kathleen Walker.
Kathleen Walker, 15920 Southeast Bluff Road, city resident. And I welcome everybody here, not just, the city residents. But I will give you a little history that, when the school was saying that they were gonna close the pool, most of the friends of the pool, because I came to those meetings, were not city residents. And so here we are, we met, and I will tell you in my testimony, I was not a big fan of getting this pool, because I thought we should build it, I thought we should just scrap it and build a new one. So, I'm writing about the community campus and the proposed city budget. I was initially supportive of the city purchasing the Cedar Ridge campus. I was not initially supportive and taking on the 50-year-old pool. I testified at that time that the city should do an overall facility maintenance plan designed to identify future department facility needs and pursue building a new pool community center rather than paying so much money for an aging pool in middle school. The council and staff proceeded with a $3 million sales agreement. I believe we've subsequently paid $150-something thousand for the master plan. I know there's a bunch more expenses we put into getting it up to be able to run it starting last July. And the reason, and at that time, there was the decision to do the utility fee. But the pool didn't get open till July. It got to be, there's a few months in there, and I kind of brought up, let's get on going on that utility fee. Well, guess what November was?
Election season.
That's the answer to your question then, Stan.
Well, I don't always have to pose that one.
Well, that's why the utility fee didn't get, launched at that time, because, of course, it just wasn't popular. I said, and I said, great, let's talk about it in December. But here we are. So I'm just now, I reviewed the master plan really quickly today, and It outlined funding mechanisms for both the construction with the options of bonds and there's grants out there, as well as the operations and maintenance, and I think that utility fee really does need to be assessed. The survey that's online, I think everybody should look at that. Like you said, it is, people did support the $3 to $7 utility fee. Now that would only get to the people in the city, and so all the folks here.
The fees get passed on to non-residents.
Okay.
I know.
Hold on, let's
Okay,
just, for
I'm
some
testifying
decorum,
here.
this is her
Because
test,
I'll tell
this is
you,
her
the
time.
extra $1 or $2 that people pay for the once or two times a week or month or whatever is not enough to cover, 4 lifeguards getting, minimum wage. It just isn't. So that's the way it is. That's the way our parks run. We're able to serve more than just the city residents. I met 4 people out of the city limits just at the dog park an hour ago. So that's great. I think it's great. I do think that, we need to really focus though, look to the people who are going to be paying for it most. And estimating the operations, I think Jordan had said about $360,000 for operations and maintenance. The fee would cover, a $7 fee would cover about 320 of that. So that would help take care of that. Given the decision to purchase the community campus, I believe that it is in our city's best interest to find a way forward that includes city development and operation of the community campus. I do not support selling off the property to developers if that's being considered. We've spent a huge amount of money to purchase it and more money to do site planning on it. And I just scrolled up and lost my place. Hold on. It wouldn't look good for anyone to walk away from that large financial investment decision when we have no other options for a pool or a community center in our future. Like some of you, I would have voted differently in 2016, but I choose to support the past city council decisions and help find the best and most cost-efficient way to implement the decisions, and I hope you do too. So regarding the in the pool survey, the #1 demand for the pool survey was open family swim time. The pool currently offers 21 hours of swim lessons, 20 hours of lap swim, 14 hours of use by the school and youth polo, and it offers 3 hours of open swim time. So if we want our city residents to support this pool, it's got to be a whole lot more than 3 hours a week when all the other things are much more. I think we do need to look to the school district. I'm understanding this week that we just put another school resource officer towards the schools that are going to be up in Welch's and Boring and everywhere else, and not in the city of Sandy doing police work in the city of Sandy. I'm concerned about that. When we talk about the police, I think we need to do another analysis about, providing services for outside the city. We need to make sure that we're at least making money on the deal and not subsidizing people outside the city because we've got our own needs here. I think that we can connect that pool and gym. The current gym now, there was one mention in the plan about tying the 2 buildings together. It is a little bit of an elevation break, but I think that's something to consider in a phase 1 option.
We're starting to hit time. I'll let you finish your thought.
Okay.
But, yeah.
And then I think we should, like I said, consider, I'll kind of provide this in writing, but there's a lot of the components that were in the plan that I don't, the amphitheater, we have a brand new newer amphitheater in Meinig, festivals, I'm concerned about some of the parts of that. I don't think that's what we're here for tonight, so I'm just going to leave those. But I do believe that we have the potential if we, kind of take a long-term phased approach to do something here and something that meets everybody's needs. So I appreciate the time. I appreciate everybody being here because I was worried that I was going to, be the only one here.
Thank you. Before I call the next person, I just would say big picture, something to keep in mind on this, just in addition to the swimming pool, and Jordan and I have had several councils had conversations about this. Very unique in a community's history to own nearly 40 acres of property just adjacent to your downtown core that offers everything that property does. The Sandy River runs through that. There's an old master plan for a mountain bike trail. Part of that trail could encompass some of the old Barlow Road from the Oregon Trail. So it's an incredible piece of property that allows us a lot to dream about. We're not there to be able to get to that point yet. But we got to, as a council, we got to be careful with our next moves on that because you certainly don't want to squander that opportunity for our community. So, Next up is Nick Cheney. Welcome. State your name and address for the record, please.
Nick Cheney, 32315 Southeast Colorado Road, Sandy, Oregon. And my talk is kind of going to be like my friend and former teammate Hannah's. We went to high school together. We were on the same high school team, and we swam club when we were a lot younger together too. When I was seven or 8, my mom put me in swim lessons here in Sandy because we have a lot of rivers and lakes, and the ocean's a few hours away. And she thought that if I'm going to be playing all these things, I should learn how to swim, or at least not drown, kind of. So I took lessons, and I was pretty good at it. I guess I had a knack for it, and they said you should join a swim team or a swim club. Well, we didn't have one here in Sandy. There was one in Gresham, but we didn't want to run back and forth to Gresham every day when I was 7, 8 years old. So a few years later, one opened up here in Sandy. When I was 9, I think, I joined. And at 10, I got my first state cut, and I went and I got 12th at 10 years old to this kind of big meet that I had no idea how big swimming was at that age. And I liked the sport, and I thought it was really cool. And also at that same time, there was the same thing going on about closing the pool, and that team wasn't there anymore. So I had to go to Gresham, and then, well, we drove back and forth to Gresham every day when I was 10. And I swam all the way till I was 20. I went somewhat far in the sport. I made junior nationals when I was under 18. I made senior nationals when I was 18, 19, and 20. Barely missed my Olympic trial cut last year. That kind of sucks, but I'm still happy with how it ended. And swimming has taught me a lot about being dedicated, being hardworking, and setting goals and working hard to achieve them. And that has transferred over into my life after swimming. I've been retired for like 3 years now, and it makes me a better worker in my job, just a better person all around. And I just wanted to say that without having the pool here in Sandy, I would have never had that, probably never had that opportunity to learn how to swim, and then take swimming to a whole new level in my life and everything else. So that's kind of robbing from from kids that are young, and their generation, and next generation, of hopefully becoming a swimmer and liking it, maybe becoming an Olympic athlete. I don't know. Maybe there's next Michael Phelps and Sandy in the next few years. I have no idea. But so I just want to say that it's cool that we had a pool when I did, and I hope we have a pool in the future and for someone. So.
Hey, thank you.
Thank
very
you.
Much. So Nick mentioned one thing I think that's important, which is water life safety training, right? And so that is something that council does weigh and consider in this as well. So, Diane Cheney.
So Diana Cheney, 32315 Southeast Colorado Road, Sandy, mother of Nick Cheney.
Congratulations.
Very, very proud. And what a great citizen. And I believe it's all a lot focused around being a swimmer. No drugs, no alcohol. But with that being said, the last time he came up here and spoke was when he was 9 and they were trying to close the pool down. And he didn't say this, but he told the city, the school district, the city council, not the city council, I mean the school board, that if they close the pool, it'd be like locking him out of his home. And so, and that was when he was 9 years old. And so when he was 13, he was in club, he was first in the 102 in a breaststroke, and that's USA Swimming Club in the state of Oregon. And then he was diagnosed with a rare heart condition that took him out for a year. So we were able to go to some specialists and get him back in the water, and then he's like a miracle person to be able to swim up to a national level, and he only misses the big cut by a couple tenths. He didn't say that. Anyway, So that being said, because proud mom and everything, it really, I've seen what it's done for him, and I back kids and people that have anything to do with the water and stuff like that. The other thing is I'm the treasurer of Mountain Aquatics, which is a USA Swim Club. That's a nonprofit organization. We run out of Mountain Community College. We also run Reynolds, and we go out of Barlow too. So with that being said, we host a lot of national meets, senior sectionals, which is 8 to 10 states that we do every summer at Mount Hood. And we're also doing futures, which is like a third of the United States. And our swim club is the host swim club, but we have it there at Mount Hood. And one of the things we also do is we have swim meets at Reynolds Pool also. So the swim meets that we host for all the other USA swimming teams in Oregon and Southwest Washington can come. We host them and they pay meet fees, and then we rent the facility. So we rent Mount Hood Community College or the Reynolds Pool. We would more than happy to look into running swim meets there, starting, because we've shown interest in starting our white and red squatch, which is the beginning swim team clubs there. And also we have a master's coach, Dennis Baker, who's been in swimming forever, that runs master programs, which is from 18 or 19 all the way up to 100, and he's willing to do that too. So I know that the revenue costs that he said that weren't being said of, what can come in, there's a lot more revenue costs that can come into a pool to generate some of the offsets of the expenses of the pool. I've worked with Tanya. I've seen what Tanya's done for aquatics. She is one of the best that I have seen. And if anyone's gonna make something work, it's gonna be her. I'm very proud of her. I've seen what she did to the Mountain Community College. I've seen what she's done here with this pool, and we're willing to support that. We're also a non-profit organization, so there's other ways that we can support and get funding because we are nonprofit, and look at for corporation donations or something for offsetting some of the costs that that might be needed for the pool. So I just wanted to say that.
Well, no, we're out of time, but hey, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. All right, who lives on Hood Street? Selena? Okay, all right. Sorry. Yeah.
I guess my
name and record.
Oh yeah, name.
Selena Cato. I live on 39535 Hood Street.
Welcome.
My talk here might be a little bit more personal, a little more emotional. I understand the costs. I understand the go-betweens that are there. Coming from a mom who, I have 2 kids that have played polo and swimming, a junior and a freshman, and it like breaks my heart to think of him not being able to have his senior year. He has 2 loves in life, water polo and swimming, and I'm not sure what the other stuff is yet. The other thing too is I was thinking about it, and I cannot swim, and I am deathly afraid of water. And I am pretty sure that's why my kids do swim, because I knew I couldn't save them. And I didn't really think about it until then, but I grew up in a community, I grew up in Sandy, Utah. And we had no pool, and I did not have an opportunity to take swim lessons and to do all of the things that I have made sure that my kids can do. And so that to me is super important, that the rest of the community has that opportunity. I also know that these programs are growing. Like when my son started in his freshman year at water polo, they barely had enough for a varsity team. But now they have a first string and a second string, and it's just getting bigger from here, and it would be really, really rough to just cut that off now because they have such good momentum.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Harvey, or Northeast Williams, Gresham.
Harry?
Harry? Your name starts with an H.
185 Northeast Williams. Gresham? Anybody here from Gresham? Let's start with Gresham. Raise your hand if you're from Gresham.
And want to speak.
What's your name?
Not Harry. All right, well,
Harry.
Oh, there you are. Welcome.
That's my hieroglyphics.
Yeah. Please state your
Take my picture.
yeah, right. Your first, last name, and your address for the record, please, in 3 minutes.
185 Northeast Williams Road, Gresham.
Welcome.
Thank you for letting us all speak today. I will not repeat what's already been said, so I'll make it really short. But I concur with whatever Scott said over here, who spoke earlier. My daughter is a part of the Empire system, and she's doing very well. And we're very supportive of your pool. And we'd like to come back and have a few more games. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Oh, thank you. Ben Brown. Ben Brown. I can read it. Welcome. Please, first, last name, address for the record, in 3 minutes.
I'm Benjamin Brown. I live on 39715 Pleasant Street, Sandy. So right down from the pool, a couple of blocks. I have a couple of questions more than just comments.
Okay.
I had to step out because of my baby, unfortunately.
Oh, I know how that goes. Yeah.
So how much were the renovations on the pool after the city took it over and they did the paint? And I heard they
It was in the vicinity. Don't know exact. It was in the vicinity of about $185,000.
$185,000.
And what? And
174, I think.
When 174. That was pretty good.
It saves $11,000.
Yeah, right. 174. And
when was the year that the city took over the pool?
my understanding from scrolling the Friends of the Sandy Pool Facebook page, it was in 2015.
15?
No,
Okay.
no.
14?
No.
We just purchased it, we got the keys last year in February.
Oh, okay.
So we owned it, and the school still occupied
The
it.
school still occupied it from
The year and a half.
January to February.
There you go.
Till swim team was
So
done,
who-
high school team, and then we
Okay,
took
so
it over.
whose management has it been over from, it hasn't been under since when, what date to what date?
Since it opened, so since it reopened this summer,
Okay.
right, in
It's been
July,
under city.
it's been under the city. Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct.
And then those renovations took place when?
Just previous to that, probably 2 to 3 months. It's
March to June
And
of
did that
last
come
year.
out of school district, or did that come out of?
That's our money.
Sandy? Oh, your guys'
City money.
Okay.
And we're separate entities as
No,
well.
yes,
Yeah.
I do understand.
Yeah.
I have family that work for a school district.
And so you know, it went towards ADA compliance issues and
Okay.
then new paint and
Yes.
that kind of stuff.
Lockers.
Lockers.
Okay,
Yeah.
so some general facilities and stuff like that. And then how much was the purchase in the property and the pool purchase?
$3 million.
$3 million. So, my question is, why renovate and make it ADA compliant and all this stuff, and then, a year from now, recommend to build a new facility?
So, you know, as I came in as mayor 2 months ago, it was
Yes.
one of the first kind of conversations that we had. I had known that the pool had recently reopened, and it was like, so what, very similar questions that you asked.
Okay.
Then my additional questions was, it's like, what's left, right? How much, what's left in this pool? How long can we expect it to last now that we've reopened without doing any new additional renovations?
Right.
At that time, I was told about $3 million. Tonight, I was told 10. And so, to kind of answer your question is, you know, we have so much money in our urban renewal fund. Those are tax dollars. And this, I'm just going to take you through my thought process.
Sure.
Is through the summer, there had been community outreach in Mining Park during Sandy Mountain Festival and different things where there are these big, kind of, you saw some of tonight, these presentations of a sandy, you know, style rock climbing wall and slides and all these different things. And it was not really, there wasn't, a lot of talk about what could be, but not how much those things would cost. And so I asked, I said, well, so what's it going to cost us to keep the pool open? $3 million, now 10, of tax dollar money. And then when we're looking at the operational expense and the deficit, because I've been around part of running and learning how the city works, I kept seeing all these inter-office loans going on to try to pick up transfers from transit, transfers from all different departments to the pool fund to try to keep it operational. And I was like, what's going on here, right? So I found out, you know, and after looking at a 6-month snapshot of when we reopened the pool and double it, you know, kind of a year in projection. So that's where we come up with like the $365,000 expense. So my worry, quite honestly, was, oh man, community, we still have about $3 to $10 million left to open a pool that I grew up. When you go there, it's going to last longer, but it's going to look, feel, taste, be the same as the pool that we all know and love and spent time in after that much money.
Right.
And then every year we're going to run at that kind of a deficit. And my biggest worry was the community was sold a bill of goods that didn't exist. That people are going to show up to that pool after spending that much money and be like, "Where's my rock climbing wall? Where's my slide? What's going on here? You guys spent $10 million of our tax dollars on a pool that's exactly the same that we all grew up in."
I understand.
That's
Yes,
what
that
that's
concept
what led us
was
to today. Yeah.
Predisposed, whatever. So
Yeah.
you said the purchase price initially or whatever was $3 to $4 million?
$3 million.
$3 million?
Yeah.
Okay, so was that borrowed or was that something we had in the city coffers?
Yeah, so what we did was so we have a solid urban renewal fund. We, like I mentioned earlier, we capture that. And just like you do with your bank account, right, you're able to use certain items as collateral.
Yeah.
And so went out and basically got a $10 million loan to be able to do the purchase with the thought at the time that we would have enough money in that fund to be able to pay for the rec center and everything else that would go with it.
Stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So my question is, I guess, what with all new facilities and stuff like that, what's the longevity of that? And then when that needs to be renovated, if you're looking really long term versus renovating this space that's current building and stuff, or maybe even adding to it, since you have lots of space to work with, obviously, lots of buildings to work with, and again, having time frame versus time frame, cost versus cost.
So quite honestly, that's
have we even considered that?
Yeah, so that's kind of, quite honestly, that's a process we're in the middle of right now, right?
Okay.
Is council previously was expecting that we had the budget to be able to create this rec center that would help subsidize the pool. They then come up with a presentation of around $70 million all in, 50, whatever the number is, big number, right? All in. And so we asked them back to do the presentation for us. And then we're also getting community feedback tonight and stuff on the pool. And our intention then is that next Monday on the 18th as a council, we got to really start putting our heads together and figure out, all right, so we don't have the money. It's like anything everybody in this room does with their home budget, right?
Yes, correct.
Is, hey, all right, so this is the amount of money and funds that we have to work with. This is what the property is. What can we do here? We can do a couple of things. One is, we can develop a levy, a bond, to put in front of voters to help pass it. Again, though, we don't want to put together a levy and a bond that we don't think could pass, and we got to weigh some of the political realities of what's the community's stomach for something like that in the wake of a brand new high school, mixed with a possible economic downturn. I helped out Central Oregon Community College in 2006 did polling that everybody wanted a new community college. 2008 came, nobody wanted to pay for a new community college, right? So there's some economic realities there.
Well, and that's kind of my point is, the voters in this town have already voted, on a high school. They said, yes, it's necessary. They were sold the idea that it's necessary. Lo and behold, the old high school is still being used. Still being renovated, still being up.
Brutal.
So, yes, and that's not necessarily everybody in this room's fault, but, it goes back a long time. And my point is, at that time, they were proposed, as some people were talking before, a new pool along with the high school.
Yeah.
The voters in this city already decided we wanted to keep the old pool and try to renovate it. And yes, that might not be in some ways, or in some perspectives, the best financial, decision, but, it's already kind of out there. I'm not saying that you have to go with past pre-notions, but what I'm saying is there is a feel, and I hope that the council is trying their best to get the feel from the city and from the people of the city, not just business owners, not just investors, the people that say they're going to use it. So
yeah, well, thank you for your questions because I think it helps provide background, right, and everything.
I'm trying to clear it up. There's a lot of ideas, a lot of big numbers.
Totally.
But brass tacks is more important.
Well, and to kind of give you brass tacks, in all honesty, I mean, that's why we're putting it in front of voters, right? Is we're looking to create a we don't know. We got to talk through it. That's one idea, but possibly like a recreational district, kind of like was mentioned up here, that encompasses more than just Sandy. And, creates, because as you mentioned, the whole community beyond Sandy, the greater Sandy community uses a pool.
Yes, because SK doesn't have a pool. Welch's is getting bigger, bigger community. I went to Welch's Middle School, so essentially, and back in the day, that area could have afforded its own high school. but of course with money and stuff like that, it doesn't anymore. So those people have to come down here. You know, there is a pool up there, but it's privately owned, so they only have an agreement to use it. If they, for some reason, can't use it anymore, if that pool doesn't exist, this is the only pool in that area for ways.
You know,
It's important.
looking at a crystal ball,
Yes.
looks like, you know, we're going to be doing something. With that we have an agreement on. We're
Right.
going to be proposing something that involves
Yeah,
a swimming
something-
pool.
And like
we
you
just
said,
got to figure out how.
proposing a levy that is practical, somebody can stomach.
Yep.
But that's my point is, like I said, they already kind of voted that down. Yes, we did spend, you know, we're spending tax dollars still paying off, you know,
Yeah.
high school.
Yeah.
So, you know, if they can't stomach it, they're gonna vote it down. That might be indicative of what they want.
That's what I'm nervous of. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah.
In your statement, you were
Yeah.
going to say about the dollar amounts it takes to run the pool every day, how much was coming in. That was
That might be good to know.
That might be good to know just from the conversation that just happened that didn't come out earlier.
Well, so just so some of the realities of the pool. So one is this is an aging pool that we've talked about here tonight. That'll take about $3 to $10 million just to get it operational how we all know it. Even if we do use the tax dollars to make this upgrade, taxpayers will be subsidizing the pool as we spoke about tonight at $365,000 a year. Now, to break that down, I'll call on here in a second. To break that down, that's for every $4 to $6 the customer pays, taxpayers pay about the next $20 in subsidy. Right now, under the current way we're running it, it runs at an operational deficit of about $1,300 a day. This means that 2/3 of our operational budget for the pool is subsidized by the city. And remember, residents of Sandy, right? It's subsidized by the residents of Sandy.
Out of the general fund.
Out of the general fund. Yep, that's correct. I got to get through statements, and then I'm going to go to hands. Of course, Robin Benelli, you're up. And she's the last on my sheet, and then I'll go to hands.
Hello,
Welcome.
Robin Benelli,
Yeah.
McKechnie.
Yes.
But I put the Benelli on. I've known Stan for a really long time.
Well, I mean, really long.
Really
Like-
long time, yes. His
Yeah.
sister and I
Yeah.
are the same age, and we were friends, and have been on family vacations and all of that.
Yeah.
I don't think that I really need to reiterate most of the things that were said in this room tonight. They were said probably more eloquently than I can say it, and very passionately. But what I would like to say is, what I do know is marketing and PR and messaging. And I followed your campaign, you know, because we're friends on Facebook and all of that, so I followed your campaign. And I can probably safely say you know those things as well. Your campaign was well done.
Thank you.
Very well messaged, very well branded, matched the existing branding, all of that. What I've noticed in your public discussions about the pool is that in the same messaging where you're saying that I'm behind you, you're also talking about that we have to take money from the pool to give to the police. And I understand that there's hard decisions to be made in committees, and there's a lot of budget, you know, parameters that you have to all consider. What I think could be improved is in the same sentence of saying, I'm with you guys, but if we fund the pool, we're taking away from police and people are going to be stabbed. I think that it sets up a really negative precedent, and it looks like we have a lot of passion in this room and in this community for this pool. And I don't think that anybody in here is not willing to go to door and fight for it. I think that's pretty obvious. So what I would ask of you, and probably all of you, I'm not friends with all of you on Facebook, and I know that page is really public, so a lot of people see it, is to help us fight for it. So in your messaging, please be consistent with saying, be your champion. You know, here you have an opportunity. Your branding keeps Sandy wonderful, and indicates and keeping
We are.
and existing.
Yeah.
A pillar. The pool is a pillar of our community, and it doesn't sound like you want to shut it down. It sounds like you're trying to find solutions. I just think that your messaging in it is pretty inconsistent, and I would hope that you could remove a little bit of the fear and from it, and also when you're promoting all the work that all of us would be willing to do to go to bat for this.
Thank you. Thank you.
I was just going to say that if we did a park district that would fund this, instead of just having 10,000 people to pay in Sandy, we'd have 40,000 people like we did with the library board. So that would make the money go a lot further.
Thank you. Yeah, and then the one thing I just wanted to say in response to that is you know, we're not on MSNBC and Fox News and NBC and CBS, ABC, all the channels all the time, right? We have one media outlet here, Sandy Post, who's here tonight. And then the rest is on social media. And so what's hard is when these issues arise, which we all want to, you know, and I tried to kind of express is, you know, I love the pool, like my kids love the pool, and that is why we're going to move forward with putting something on the ballot for everybody. You also, though, it's not everybody understands the realities of the rest of the budget, and so, you know, it's a lot of it is my attempt to really kind of bring home what the realities is you know, waste, as important as the pool is, it's not even going to come close to costing what this wastewater treatment facility will, for example, right? And we had like 4 community members here when it was time to talk about that project, because it's a lot harder to get passionate about sewer water as it is about a swimming pool. And then the realities of the police budget is, you see in the past, and I'm new, last 2 months, people are really afraid to talk about the current status of our public safety and of our police, and how the status of where those budget priorities are based on a growing population, growing homelessness crisis, and different things going on in town. And there's been a hesitancy to speak out and say, we only have, during certain shifts, 1 officer. And so when we're looking over, and just to give you some perspective, we give about 57% of our general fund allocation goes towards the police. So it's a big chunk of our general fund allocation. Other communities give between 80 to 90% of their general fund allocation to police. So when we're trying to weigh these different options between police, public safety, core functions like wastewater, we hear traffic's a big deal here in town. There's just a lot of priorities, and I'll work to do it better, and it's conversations Jordan and I have, which is, how do we explain the realities of the budget without screwing up what we're hoping will pass by voters? And so that is something that we're all work in progress, and that we're trying to get better at doing. But we do, while explaining the realities of the budget, because a lot of people think, well, why would I have to pay a tax? Why do I need to pay a tax increase? I pay enough in taxes. Well, it's because we got some problems in our budget, right? And so if you want something additional like an aquatic facility, you're going to have to approve that and make that decision at the ballot box. So I'll work on it. I'll try to be better at it. But that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to lay out the realities of the situation. You've had your hand up in the middle for a while, and then I see you in the back as well.
And we are going to need you to make your way up to the microphone, because we are recording the meeting and it won't pick you up from there.
Now, please remember, first name, last name, address for the record, 3 minutes. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. So my name is Marilyn Lyons. I'm a retired school counselor. Worked in Gresham for 20 years in the schools. So I know how important it is for children to have access to opportunities that help them grow as human beings. And I wanted to address the marketing thing again. I heard the people talking about the facility that they were projecting to improve in terms of the swimming pool. And I didn't hear them say it was going to be the same old pool. So I hope that when you talk about it in the future, you don't talk about the same old pool. You talk about how we're going to upgrade the pool so that it meets better standards for everybody.
Point well taken.
Yeah, okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Address, please. Address.
Oh, address.
Oh, sorry. 29370 Southeast Church Road in Boring.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, when I said that, I was kind of like, oh, no.
Active volunteer in Sandy.
Great, welcome. Yeah, when I said that, I was worried. I was worried about how people would perceive it. But you're right, I do need to get better at how I say it. I see you've had your hand in the back. If you'd like to come up. Okay. Back here. Yes, please come to the podium. Remember, name and address for the record. Welcome.
Longer to get up here than what my talk is.
We need some music when people are coming up, right?
My name is Dottie Genero, 19185 Webster Avenue, Sandy. Before we disbanded, I
I would be representing Friends of the Pool. And I just have a couple of quick questions. There's a lot of rumors going around, and one of which we all were a little alarmed about. Is the pool closing on May 31st?
That's the current direction of council, yes.
Really?
Yes.
So there won't be any swim lessons this summer?
Correct.
So it'll be nothing?
Well, so, I mean, we are proactively trying to work with local facilities in town to work out some public-private partnerships to be able to have some swim lessons, but the current direction of council is to close the pool.
You mean a pool in town too?
Yes.
Okay, and I've got two suggestions. I think for the meeting on March 18th, you need a bigger venue if you have one.
Yeah, usually
There's gonna be a lot of people.
we talk a lot about going over to the high school. They had their school board meeting tonight. We'll have conversations about it.
Yeah, because the rumor is that it's going to be
big one.
A lot.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
and I suggest you use the microphones. Most of the people in the back couldn't hear anything.
Okay.
I don't think these actually, like, you can't hear me any louder now. It's just for the recording.
The speakers up.
Okay.
You can? Does it sound? Well, I'm talking louder too, so let me talk louder. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me through the speaker? Can you hear me through? Okay, so the speakers don't work.
You can hear the presenters?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, there's no speakers in here.
And some people's voices carry better. Well, haven't had microphones.
The microphone's for the video.
Yeah, the meeting's recorded, and people can watch it online later, so that's what the recording's for.
Sure. Have a portable mic when people are speaking so that everybody can hear, because half of us probably didn't hear a third of what was said.
Okay. Point taken. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And Mayor, I want to thank Dottie. I just want to thank you because it was back when 2014 that she's running the Friends of the Pool, where we got together many times to save what we were calling Save the Pool during that time, where we gathered and I led the committee and chaired that to find different resources to come up with finding the operational cost as well as the what do you call it, the building cost, the buying the cost and that type of thing.
Thank you for
So
recognizing that. We felt we were kind of the catalyst for bringing the school district and the city together to really start talking.
right, and so she did a lot of work in that time frame, and so one of the only reasons why we're all still sitting here today talking about that is because she put a lot of effort into that. So there was another group, but you led that group. So.
Effort, and our motto has always been every child a swimmer. And I think that motto should stand on its own merits and continue. That should be our priority.
So, thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I had a rule going in, only one time a person, so I'm going to break it this one time, and then you
At least take the jacket off.
Just because there's people back there that are afraid to come up and speak in front of the public, so I just wanted
Well,
to.
thank you.
So,
Yeah, sure.
again, Diana Cheney. So the question that was being said back there is so I hadn't heard the May 31st closure. So is that set in stone? Is that what's planned? And why and how did we come to that decision?
Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, it really goes back to the budgetary constraints that we have for the remainder of this biennium. We're in our budget cycle, and the fact that we have other operational needs, a lot of which we have talked about here tonight, and a need to be able to put together a path forward that we can present to the community. But we simply don't have the budgetary money shy of a utility fee for the operations of the pool. And we're very hesitant to enact a utility fee for the continued operations of the pool when we must, quite honestly, we must as a council look at it at increasing the utility fee in a couple different ways. One is incremental raises for that wastewater treatment plant, so that you're not getting like a $70 to $90 increase overnight, so that we can incrementally do that. And quite honestly, we've got to address our public safety budget. And so, while people don't like me pointing to that, this is local government. These are, you got to look at your priorities like any household does. And we're hearing you here tonight, but we're also, it's our responsibilities to, really look at the amount of money we have allocated that we have to spend, and how we can spend that in a prioritized way. And we're looking at a huge deficit in our police budget right now, and mixed with wastewater.
Right.
And PERS.
Right, and I know that, this has been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's just the money has been allocated. I just really feel like, shutting it down without going into the fact of really looking forward of where the revenue could come from. Summer swim lessons are a lot of money. There's a lot there. And also, like I was saying, when we do swim lessons and rent a pool, we spend thousands of dollars renting that pool. We bring in the financial, economic, that comes in from all over is amazing. I mean, hotels, businesses all around, everything, and I don't think that, the financial side of supporting the pool for the programs of getting that money to the pool are looked at. I think you're just trying to fight it with the budget that you have and just say, oh, we just have to keep putting this money out, instead of saying, where can we get this money to come in and start supporting it? And I haven't looked at it yet, but we are a nonprofit organization, and so we can go out and fundraise and things like that. And I know that, and I haven't looked into this yet, I mean, I'm pretty small right here, but I know that Microsoft has sponsored some of the pools in Washington, and they're a pretty big, business or corporation, and there's Nike that's here in Oregon. I haven't looked into seeing that and what they would support, and also if there was anything USA Swimming would do, but there's just some things that instead of just going out and saying, hey, the Sandy utility bill, this is how we're going to do it, I guess you need to really look at where we can get that revenue to support it,
right?
Besides just doing the, anyway. So,
thank you.
Yeah,
I don't think it's been addressed. I don't think people are looking at that, and I think that's very important before you shut it down.
Yeah.
So I would just say, if you're exploring options, we're operating on a $1,300 a day deficit. So we lose $1,300 a day. So if you're out seeking or exploring funds, keep that in mind, because I don't know many people that would own a business or operate a facility on that big of a loss per day. So I just say, as you're looking or exploring options as a nonprofit and what might be out there, that's where we're at deficit wise.
Well, and I'm also wondering, as far as the reconstruction or doing something with the pool, if there's some funds and millions of dollars there that could be done corporate wise or whatever. But can I ask you, this $1,300 deficit, I know that you said you took like a year's worth.
6 months.
6 months, okay, and was that 6 months have to do with, what were the costs involved? Were those the baseline employment costs, or payroll, such, or were you also talking about the major renovations that were done to the pool?
First, I'm going to go to Tanya, but not renovations. We're just talking operational expense. Tanya, do you have some answers?
So that was from July 1 to December 31st. That included the summer season. I will just say that programmatically we did scale back slightly because we knew that long-term our goal would be to close the pool after a year. So we didn't reach out to swim teams, for instance. We didn't programmatically add robust programming that we could have done, reaching out to rehab, therapeutic recreation, adaptive recreation, those types of things we did not do because the intent was to close after a year.
And just so you know, when she says the intent, just let's clarify that. Okay. Okay, so the intent is because we are going to be entering into this phase of this project, right? So remember, you're dealing with a past staff, city manager, a lot of change going on here in City Hall. But the decision at that point was based on what you saw some of this presentation tonight, where they were going to have to shut down the pool to do phase 1 renovations to it. So don't take it as we've had this plan to shut down. There was this plan in place to shut down so that we could start construction on this next renovation. So just to be very clear on that.
Just history-wise, I
Yeah.
was the treasurer also at Friends of the Sandy Pool, you
Yeah.
know, and so I've been involved in swimming a lot. The one thing that I noticed that when I came into the Friends of the Sandy Pool is that nobody really even knew we had a facility there. There hasn't been any like big thing that says, here's the aquatic center, you know, and here we got this program. So I don't really think as far as if you're, you know, like if my business sense wise, being a treasurer and all that kind of stuff, you gotta like make sure that everybody in the surrounding areas know about it. And that was one of the big factors. And that's been going on for years and years. And I think that is one of the detriments to the pool and succeeding too, is making sure that people know that it's available and what it's available for. And I think it just hasn't been available for bigger revenue areas.
Okay.
To come in to do that.
Thank you very much. In the back. Yes, please. Looks like we got to you. You're now ready. So yeah.
I figure you might know, but you might not know.
Remember your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Cindy McKechnie, 35857 Southeast Yamagu Lane in Boring. And I think what it sounds like what you might be forgetting is that the pool costs, you have operating costs for the pool as long as there is water in it. Those costs don't go away. So even if you close the pool to the public, you're not gaining that money because you're still going to have to pay that money to operate the pool. Because if you take the water out and you don't run it, you're going to ruin the pool.
Right.
So you're seriously talking about these 3 phases. Every single one of them has that pool. So that means you're going to be sitting on the pool with the water in it, having all these costs, $1,300 a month, because all you're going to save is the employees. And you're still going to have someone do the maintenance on the pool.
Okay.
So you're not saving a lot of money. I mean, how much are the employees per month?
Well, I mean, Tony, I think we live in Oregon. Minimum wage is pretty good these days, plus insurance and everything else. Tony, I mean, you don't have to give us an exact number, but okay, yeah.
How many employees do you have at the pool?
Somewhere between 20 and 30.
Is it necessary to have 8 guards during water polo
There is
practice?
not 8 guards.
I'm exaggerating, but
Okay.
it seems like there's a lot when it's not
Thank
very
you.
necessary to have so many at a time.
There are 2 guards during that time.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
What's on Friday night? How many guards do you have?
We have 5, and that has to do with the
Yeah.
blind spots on the inflatable for safety reasons.
Remember, when it's guys, for a little decorum here, when it's time to, if you would like to come up to the podium, please put your hand up. I'll call on you, and you can come and ask whatever questions or anything you would like. Yeah. All right, Kathleen, I see your hand, but hold on, because I want to give everybody before we return. Yeah, please. Remember first name, last name, and address for the record, please.
My name is Kendall Felton, and I live on Third Street. I'm a pool designer myself, so I know what it takes to build these things. I don't quite understand how come it's taking so much to run it, but my guess is the equipment is very old. I think that your budget would go way down having newer equipment. I just know from the things that I have built myself and designed, that seems very astronomical. Also, as a resident, it would be nice to be able to use that pool in reasonable hours, because right now we can't. It just does not, the open swim isn't there, the time for lessons isn't realistic to my working hours, and I have 2 kids that need it.
Yeah. Thank you.
And closing it for the summer is just not, that's not realistic. That's really, I refuse to go to Mountain and Athletic to recreate. So my next option is I've been going to Mount Scott.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. She spoke. It's first time, I think.
Yeah.
Gretchen McCabery, but yes, I'm from Rhododendron.
Oh, welcome.
But I have water polo kits, I have swim kits, and I am a small business owner up here on the mountain. And I guess my biggest point is the ski resort would not close in January.
Well, it is an indoor water facility. I mean, it's not like it's
understand
outdoor
what we're
with kids
talking
running
when
around.
the kids are out of school.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I don't know what the schedule is. I only know how it's impacted the swim team, the water polo team. How long, because we just heard that it's the long-term plan had been to close it. For how long? Is it just because we are gonna move forward with the renovations, or now because we're just gonna close it and see what happens? Is that your question? Or are you gonna reopen it?
Yeah. I mean, the plan is, I mean, as we've discussed at our retreat, is that because of the budgetary constraints, we don't have the operational budget to continue the pool operating as is, and so we've got to develop another revenue stream that we need to put in front of voters to decide the future of the aquatic center.
And could the pool not at least make up some of that deficit by being open for swim lessons and all kinds of other things in open swim during the summer when the children are out of school?
So
right now your hours are limited to when the kids are in school or adults doing
So Tanya, I'm looking for a ballpark here, right? July and August last year. I mean, you know, not to put you on the spot, but for past.
Obviously in the summer, that's our busy months. Yeah. I mean, swimming lessons, we bring in the most revenue. I think it was 45,000 for the 6 months, or it's going to be projected for the year. So swimming lessons are getting max capacity, and open rec is available Monday through Friday, so we fill that too. So yeah, I mean, summer is the prime time.
So they, as a business owner, I can tell you what that means, is that translates into maybe we could make up some of the deficit by being open.
Yeah, fall
then
is.
at the risk of being shot by my children.
I don't know, I'm going to call a spade a spade. Council's met, council, I apologize.
Were you one of my children?
Sir,
I graduated from Sandy long before.
Yeah, no, that's right. No, I apologize. It's just, we're a little frustrated, not at you. We've had conversations where we have been told that we lose more money in the summer than we do during the rest of the year. So when you see us kind of scuttling, we're going, hold on here.
Yeah, mathematically that doesn't work for me.
That's why.
That's why you saw a whole bunch of people talking up here.
I have done the math for the Sandy pool.
Yeah.
It wasn't you.
I'm getting frustrated myself here.
Do you feel, I mean, Councilor Exner, do you feel the same way? I feel like we've all been told that the summer months lose more money.
I've been trying to be real quiet here because I want to listen to what the citizens are saying.
Yeah.
And I think it's really crucial, but I'm a little frustrated too because I wanted to be the shutdown time to be our worst time, and I thought that was when the summertime was going to be our worst time. And that's kind of what I heard when we were making those decisions. And then at that time, we were also talking about doing renovations, cleaning things up, going forward on some of the phase 1 stuff. So I'm a little frustrated in that respect here. But I also represent the old, I guess you call it that. The old,
come on.
Object to this.
Yeah. I was part of the council that made the decisions to purchase, and there's several of us here that are on this council that did that same thing. And we were very supportive of the swimming pool. In fact, it's the thing that made us so aware. It was the friends of the pool, it was the citizens that came to us. We had several meetings, some as full as these, saying we need the pool. So we made that decision. We spent the $3 million. We wanted to go forward. And so in all of this conversation, we need a pool. It's obvious. My grandkids went there. One thing I haven't heard yet, but I represent this, is the older people, and I guess that's what I represent. I'm almost 70 years old. I was there when I needed to have my knee rehabilitated, when I put an artificial knee on back 15 years ago. And I spent a lot of time in that pool, so there are lots of seniors that do use that pool as well. So it's crucial that we keep this pool. I think it's a community gym, and whichever process works the best for this is where council wants to go. But really, I'm hearing some feedback that says maybe that decision to close in the summertime is the bad decision. But we heard that it was the premium time to do that, and that would be the least expensive time to do these kind of conversations, as well as to do some work on the pool itself, that we couldn't have people in it at the same time. So maybe we need some redoing.
Let me just pause for a second. and just say, you know, I think there's a consensus on council here that we misunderstood, or that we at least need to look at or have numbers reported back to us on the operations for the summer months. Councilor Smallwood, the Exner.
I'm not
Jeremy.
I'm a little.
I'm not that.
A little thrown off. Yeah.
You don't look like me at all. I can tell that.
Jordan, do you remember? Did it have anything to do with the amount of money that had been borrowed?
I don't think so. I think maybe it had to do with just timing a closure to give notice, as opposed to. Just
I do recall that
a
conversation.
date after that conversation.
Yeah.
I don't recall talking about operations in summer versus other months or anything like that. Granted, it was my third day. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right. No.
Mine too.
Mine 3. Yeah.
Right, it's my fault.
Yeah,
well, I remember it was timing in our budget because we taken out what, 300,000 or 500,000
transfers
money to help keep supporting it, and it was it was borrowing it from other departments to be able to keep it running, and so we would have to go out and do that again. To continue that, and so
we would have to budget for it the next biennium.
Right. So
we did the transfer,
and there wasn't that. That's what I recall of the timing on that, and we kept it open longer than what was being discussed.
Well, yeah. I mean, we kept it open longer for the high school sports teams, right? I mean, that was important to us. So
that ended beginning of February. We ended that at the beginning of February. Could have been closed by Valentine's Day. And then you could have been, I don't know what.
Yeah, but there was some kind of.
There's other programs that were.
Yeah, there's some programs or lessons or something.
Of course, but the high school program was finished.
We were.
So I guess the question
I'll let you continue.
No, wait a minute. You know, my 3 minutes has been used.
Hey, but you did a pretty good job, though. You got us going a little bit, right? Yeah.
So I guess what I would ask is, could you please revisit that? Because if the consensus is that we're closing it for the summer because it's having to borrow money from other departments, maybe in the summer it doesn't have to. And then depending on when it does need to be closed, or for how long it needs to be closed, to save those seniors, because my child is one of them who will lose her senior year of sports, and that would break my heart. Is that you look at the window and say, when is the least impact? Maybe we do have people here. I know for one, I know how much my family raised for the water polo team last year, and it's impressive for just 3 of us that were able to do it. Which means you put all this group together, we're going to be able to do even better than that. So maybe there's a different window that would be a better window that would not impact the high school teams, water polo or swimming, would not impact the summer lessons and classes and open swim, that when you've got younger kids, kind of qualifies as daycare, you know, and a variety of other things. So I would ask that before you actually carve that May 31st date in stone, see maybe the numbers rather than, because I definitely got the impression here that we didn't know exactly, we did not know what the numbers might really be, and revisit when that time can be. And before I finish, and then before you go ahead and close it, because my senior will still be here as a senior for next year, I'll have a senior following year.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, thank you so much.
I just need it open for 2 days.
Yep.
They're renovating, but you have a month and a half to do it.
Thank you very much for your time. Yes, come to the podium, please, sir.
Come on up.
Welcome.
Okay, and then Mark.
Yeah, welcome. Just yep. Welcome.
My name's Blake Smith. 14354 Southeast Bluff.
I remember you, Blake. I think we went to high school. Welcome.
Yeah, we played the water polo.
Yep.
I know I can't overemphasize the need for water safety in this pool, and Method Athletic Club does not have the same type of facility for water safety. They don't have an 11-foot pool. They don't have a competition pool. So I just wanted to make that clear that the other privately owned facility in the city of Sandy is, they just don't compare on that issue. I was raised in that pool pretty much since I was born.
Yeah.
My dad was the aquatics director, swim coach, whatever, the legend he is.
Yeah.
Sandy Swimming.
Yeah.
I work at the pool as a lifeguard. You know, did some water safety teaching. And that led me on to becoming an EMT and doing that for a while. So I just wanted to, you know, make it clear that Mount Hood Athletic Club is not the same as the Sandy Club, the Olin Bay Golf Club.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll go here, and then we'll go to Kathleen, then you'll get your turn, and then we'll return to Sean. Yeah.
I am Sally Hebel, 36723 Southeast Kelso Road. I was pretty much born and raised on Kelso Road. So I've seen a lot of things over quite a few years. I can remember when we did not have a pool in Sandy. Some parents were so concerned that they bused their children to Blue Lake. And they had swim lessons there. And I can remember my brother coming home with gravel in his knees because it was, you know, not the optimum place to have swimming lessons in a gravel lake. But anyway, I also remember reading articles about multiple children who drowned in our community. You know, what price do we put on the life of a child that has not had the opportunity to learn water safety? I have been a teacher for Oregon Trail, and I never could understand why the school district couldn't look upon the pool as just really another classroom. It's a classroom that teaches water safety, waterproofs our kids. So would we close down a classroom if we think that it's too expensive? You know, I just think that all the wonderful programs that are at the pool, my family has certainly taken advantage of those. We've had job opportunities, we've had college scholarships, we've had all of those things. But before we had all those things, the major concern that we had here in Sandy to build that aquatic center was because of water safety. And I'd hate to see that all of a sudden now we're going to be having children drowned in the Sandy River and the many lakes and rivers that are around here. So it just seems like we should be able to fund this program.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Just one item right before you go, Kathleen, that I just would want to continue to raise, though, is that, remember, I mean, the Oregon Trail School District has not been paying for the swimming and the water polo. They also, our community, with half the tax base, had to come forward and try to save the pool when the Oregon Trail School District decided to close it, even after passing that bond for a new high school. You know, they've kind of had us a little bit. I mean, just to be transparent and candid with everybody in this room, you know, if we really push the issue of charging for swim classes and water polo, the first thing they're going to tell the community is we had to close those programs because of the dirty city was charging us too much for it. And how are we supposed to make this thing pencil out with less than half of the tax base of the Oregon Trail School District? And so I only bring this up to say, make sure you're also calling those folks over there to be a good community partner with us.
Quick reminder, what I said earlier, the water polo team pays for itself.
And
Oregon Trail School District does not provide support for the water polo team. We have to do ourselves. So when you didn't charge the school district, what you really weren't doing is you weren't charging.
It's Kathleen's time, but that's pretty telling, though, isn't it?
I agree with your comments, Stan. Yeah. What is kind of concerning to me is that I just sat through 2 hours of a meeting, not realizing that you all had already made a decision to close the pool. And that doesn't feel good when I hear that we're a real transparent organization, I gotta say. And I don't want to criticize in public because you always compliment in public and criticize in private. But after having sat here, I'm sure that comment is or that feeling is shared by a lot of folks in this room. You know, I was just kind of taken aback by it. I hope that's not how we're gonna operate in the future. I think being transparent about your intentions is important going into a meeting. That said, can I move on? Mountain RV Resort, just this week, stopped allowing the public to use their pool. People went up there for swimming lessons, they went up to work out and all that stuff. All that's now closed to them. So that's going to be a huge shift in demand. I was one of the key people that did 3 different Parks District bonds here in Sandy back in way long ago. And the first one failed by 25 votes, the second one failed by 4 votes, and the third one passed with like 25 or 30 votes, but it was the year that we had to have a double majority, and so we couldn't move forward with it. Going with the Parks District, for the same as the Oregon Trail School District, will be very challenging for you people, because all these people that live on Cherryville and all these other places have their own kind of private Idaho. You know, they got lots of acreage, they got trails, they got the Forest Service land, and you know, they don't want to pay for parks as a park district because they don't need it. Whereas if you live in Bornstead Village, it's a different situation. So it'll be a real big fight. And Happy Valley just pulled out of the North Clackamas district because they had been putting all this money into the North Clackamas district, and they didn't feel like they were getting all their parks. So unless we're ready to go start building a bunch of parks up the mountain where all these people and all the outside of the city limits live, and building them, you know, getting them, building them, and operating them, I'm a little concerned about doing a parks district that goes that far. I think you need to narrow it down to aquatic center, rec center, something like that. So that's kind of the deal with that. I honestly think that the whole plan originally, when we bought the pool, was to do the utility fee, the $3 to $7, and I would say, I would recommend starting with a $5 or $6 utility fee, starting next month or the next month after that, or whatever it's going to, starting in May, and keep the pool open for the summer. I think the costs that you're coming up with they didn't get a lot of great costs from the previous operators of the pool, and Tanya, you know, she's had to kind of build the bike while she's, you know, putting it together, and the costs, obviously there was huge learning costs and repairs and all that stuff, and so we don't have a really good handle on how much it costs to run the pool. I've also heard from, you know, that's not the first time I've heard that there's perceptions that we're overstaffing and things like that maybe we could kind of tailor down some costs. But I feel like the utility fee is important to go ahead and move forward with now. And then the last thing I want to say is we're one of the most popular places to live, as you guys know. A pool and even a community center and senior services and things like that are not money-making operations. There's something a city does to offer amenities to kind of help move people to move to this, you know, this place and love it and recreate in it and build businesses in it and things like that. They're not intended to, you know, be in the black all the time. That was never the assumption. You will not make money on a pool. I don't know how much bake sales these people do. So, you know, it's just ridiculous to think that we can, you know, pay our way, or even holding meets and things like that. If you keep holding all the meets, right now we have all these special parties on the weekends. The pool is not open to the kids on the weekends, unless you do a special birthday rental. You know, when I had kids, we had the birthday party down at the pool with everybody, you know, the other 100 people that were there. We brought a cake and ate it in the corner or whatever. So I think there's ways to kind of, you know, keep making the money, but realize with the utility fee, that's your ticket to be able to pay for it.
Thank you, Kathleen. Just to clarify, though, that we're going to, Sean, start to wrap up here this evening. Thank you, everybody, for coming. When you say utility fee, just let's keep in mind, we're talking $10 million, then a utility fee. So, Sean.
Yeah. Actually, they did.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Mark Smith, and I live at 14354 Bluff Road.
Welcome.
Thank you. I've been sitting back there, almost jumping out of my seat some of the time by what's being expressed. And I agree with much of it, and I see where you folks are coming from. I'm a little nervous, but it's only due to the cardiologist giving me some new medicine because I've been under care for a heart problem. So please bear with me. I'm making my last attempt to keep it going because my heart was in that pool. I came down from Seattle, from the University of Washington, to take over the program in Sandy, and I was hired the same day. And I felt very fortunate. I loved the area. And we've been in Sandy since the summer of '74. And we haven't moved. I was the aquatics director until 1997, at which time I was ready to retire through PERS and went back as a physical education instructor the last couple of years. So basically, through that, and also the fact that I coached the high school team for all those years, and we had each year at least one person either get a work study, partial ride, or full ride to a college in competitive swimming and or water polo. And Stan remembers me from the days.
Let's be clear, I was not one of the kids getting that scholarship.
No. But he had a long reach for water polo.
That's right, yeah.
Got it in the belly a lot.
Yeah, that's right.
So basically, I just want to reiterate the fact that I got to know Olin Bignall very well in all those years. The pool was named after him and his insight. And I've written articles which I plan to present an article to the board and not take up the time right now. But I'd like to read this one paragraph because it has to touch on a lot that we have been discussing. The aquatic facility was constructed to educate students and save lives through a comprehensive instructional swim program within our educational system. Olin felt that through the educational system, especially the elementary grades 3 and 4, that we would be able to save lives. And basically, every child a swimmer was his motto. It was the original intention in '65 that the elementary grade level was the key to preventing water-related injuries and fatalities. Its purpose was to ensure that students would become swim proficient, realizing their full potential. In addition, other avenues towards personal lifetime opportunities would be realized, such as fitness swimming, competition, water polos, competitive swimming, diving, lifeguarding, and instructors of swimming to learn a new job under an educational environment so that they were taught the proper procedures in working for an employer and watching lives. So, in addition, other avenues towards personal lifetime opportunities would also be realized, such as fitness swimming, competition, water polo, lifeguarding, and I mentioned that before. Students would understand that safety in, on, and around the water is important, and one who engages in aquatic activities should acquire the knowledge and skill which would enable them to meet either unforeseen or unexpected emergencies. It is believed, and continues so, that 7,000 or more individuals drown each year, and a majority of them are elementary age in the United States. Saving the life of one student is immeasurable compared to 2 weeks of instruction and practice. It was also our feeling that if we could give at least 2 weeks of instruction to as many youngsters that live in the community as possible, we would definitely be saving lives. So as the time that I was the director, I would not let individual or parents sign up for more than 1 2-week session, so I would reach out the full spectrum. Everybody had at least that chance. And as the summer went on, then I started opening it up for others. Now, not one of you would feel different about this, because I believe that each of you would feel the same way I do. No amount of money is equal to a person, child, life. You close the pool for the summer, which is the biggest time of the year, as many have mentioned. And you're going to, as well as myself, be responsible for that person's death. Now, either you accept that when you make a decision, or you don't. That's part of why you are there, to make those hard decisions. But summer is the wrong time. You need to offer instruction. Now, I know that Tanya needs lifeguards, and she needs to train those lifeguards. And a lot of her lifeguards, I'm sure, are subs. So that if one gets sick or one moves because of vacation or moves because the family moved, she needs to get another body in that place for the safety of who's in the pool. So the numbers don't relate to all those people making money during that lifeguard time. Sure. I do not feel that Sean needs to have multiple lifeguards on the pool deck. Not only did I coach high school and water polo, but I also coached in 4 different states here in the U.S. and was involved over at Colorado Springs with the U.S. Olympic program and took our national women's elite team to Europe. So basically, I've done coaching. Scott McTechnie's done coaching. Sean, one of my swimmers when I first got here, that did a terrific job, and we took him to nationals, was Mr. Roth, right there. Yep. And he and I went back to Memphis, where he did a great job in the 200 fly. He wrote me a letter, and I hope you don't mind, but he wrote me a letter. He said, "You're basically been my dad. I have spent more time at the pool and at swim meets with you than I have with my folks." So basically, that is true of many, but Chris was the only one that really took it out, and I've saved that letter. It means a lot to me. So basically, I've done my best in that realm, but coaching and swim teams and water polo teams isn't the only thing. It's the Learn to Swim program. It's the younger children. It's the handicapped individual, all right? The ones that need the lift to get into the pool, the ones that are missing a leg. It also takes a lifetime sport, the Masters program, which I coached here in Sandy for about a year or 2. It's a lifetime sport. Now, those children, if they're not at the pool learning aquatics, are they going to the river? Are they going to go to a lake? Are they going to be able to know how to save another individual? Throw a ring buoy out? You know, all those things that will help them survive and feel good about the fact that they saved somebody else's life. Basically, I know you'll do the right thing, but it's not going to be easy. I'm in favor of a park and recreational district. I think that is one of the better things that I've heard at this meeting in regards to how to tackle this program. And then they either continue on or they don't, and they try the next time if the levy fails. So basically that's it. As I say, I will write some information and send it to you, I guess, Stan.
Yeah, please do.
And you can hand it out.
Yep.
And we'll go from there. Do any of you have any questions of me? Yes.
Well, I was going to make a suggestion that since we've heard that the summertime time is one of our more crucial times, is there another time in the season that we could, because we're going to have to shut down the pool for some renovations, some look at our budget, so there's going to be some tough times.
There's really no great time. I know that's the crux of the whole thing, because you've got Sean's water polo or the swim team or whatever. it would have been very hard on me running the program. I had about 120, 130 swimmers on the Blue Marlin swim team. And we travel on the weekends and go to various meets and such. And they needed practice time. So basically, it's not easy, because if the pool is shut down, where do they practice? So I had to go out and talk to Mike Popovich and a few other individuals at Mount Hood College to use their pool time and transfer the kids down. That's all logistics.
Okay. All right.
To answer your question, there's really no good time, but not summer.
Okay. All right.
You know, it's just not the right thing to do. And I wouldn't want to walk around knowing that my decision in regards to that didn't save a life, that we did have lessons and water safety, so that would be taken care of.
Okay.
I apologize for being kind of nervous. I'm not usually that way.
You're fine.
All right.
Appreciate
You're fine.
it.
Thank you.
Message received.
Thank Well, we're looking to wrap up here, but Sean, you were about to, do you want to say some words, and then we'll...
Yeah, after that.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say it's going to be a hard act to follow.
It's
So.
impossible. I should have gone first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I run Empire Water Polo Academy. We practice at a Sandy Pool. I believe we're the...
Sean, you're going to have to say your address too, but...
Oh,
Ask how long it's going to be closed. That everyone asks and nobody answers.
okay. Yeah. I will definitely hit on that. Sean McKechnie, 39295 Scenic Street. Like a block from there, not even. I could probably throw a baseball from my house right now to there. Well, Robin, I can't. So just a couple things, because I feel like we're working on some really unrealistic numbers, especially when we look at the 6 months that the pool is open, because it takes a lot to get the pool running. And we've lost a lot of confidence in the community. Half of the community doesn't know the pool exists anymore, right, after the first shutdown. But we haven't talked at all about what happened before. Sandy High School was running the pool when we were in high school. But then we gave it to YMCA, and they did okay for a little while. But it's changed hands so much that the community, lost all confidence in like what's being offered there. And Tanya's done a fantastic job over the last 6 months or a year. And she did a fantastic job at Mount Hood. And if we look at what we're actually using the pool for right now, we're not using it really at all. We used to have grade school swim lessons there that no one seems to remember, that don't happen anymore.
No, I remember.
We used to have high school. We'd be 2 weeks in high school there. But the pool just sits. And I think what we really need is for the community to come together and make this something that we can all get behind. Because I think everybody wants a pool. I know it doesn't make a lot of money, right? But when it comes down to like people's safety, I've seen people save people on the river. I think everybody that's been to the river has seen people save people. It's those kind of skills that you don't get if you are never in a pool. And I have friends that live in communities that didn't have pools, and they can't swim, like at all. And if you take the ability away from kids to be able to swim here, the amount of outdoor activities they can safely do decreases dramatically. I have a 2-year-old daughter right now playing water polo, and so it's a cool mind to get more little kids to swim. And as much as I love Mount Hood Athletic Club, it's not a community pool, right? It doesn't really serve our needs. So I know you guys have decided a long time ago to close the pool. I hope that we are flexible on maybe when that change is going to happen. I would suggest the spring, because there is no high school sports at that time, so I think it'd be a little easier on the high school kids. But I would really like a path forward, and I don't think it's this.
No, I don't either, quite honestly.
Right? I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, and I think most people agree, like $70 million and $10 million on plants is kind of crazy. But there is a lot of stuff that we could do together as a community to get that place up to snuff. And I don't know if we need the whole thing. I think we got it for a bit of a steal at $3 million. But I think, and it may not be popular, but if we sold off a portion of it, we could do a lot. Right? I mean, that is some gorgeous property there. And even if we're not selling it, we could improve it as a community. We don't need to have, I don't know how much we spent on that plan, but we've put in bike paths before, right? We did mining park. We've done a lot of things, and we could do this also. So I would really hope that you guys and the school district can get together, figure this out, and that we can help you with some kind of path forward.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
I know, yeah. So the plan was to shut it at, we don't have the operational budget for the pool. So the decision was made on May 31st to shut it down until we could put something on the ballot. So, I mean, just forthright here, right? You put it on the ballot, on a 2020 ballot. It passes. Passes.
19. 19. You said 2020.
Well, if you're going to create a, I mean,
it would be 2020.
It'd be 2020.
You can't do anything by May.
You can't do anything by May.
November.
I mean, so
Going to effect in 2020.
so it's
November 2020.
November of 2020, and then it would go under construction to get brought up to the bones of it and everything to get up and going and be operational.
So all the kids in high school are done.
Yeah.
So after May
That's correct.
31st, that's like the kind of indefinitely until everything
That's
else
correct.
is improved.
Yep.
And
That's
so
the
it's
answer.
not necessarily
Yeah.
like an open date after that.
Right. That's the answer.
Okay.
Yep.
And are you
Those programs that would be created.
So hold on, just guys. So I mean, that's the answer.
I have a really important question.
Okay.
Could I ask that?
Sure. Yeah.
So you're going to close the pool on May 31st, and I heard someone say that if you don't continue to maintain the pool, it's done.
Mhm.
Are you going to continue to maintain it, even though nobody's going to be using it, or not?
That is my understanding, is that we would continue maintenance of the pool. We can't just let it be destroyed, right? Because we would we're looking to pass something forward where we can keep the pool going into the
And
future.
someone
So.
said that the cost of maintaining it is going to be what the major cost already is, right? So
Well-
you're not going to add much more.
Well,
to
some of it, but we also have everything from insurance to operational water expenses
Have
to
you gone through
staffing
those
to all of that.
expenses And measured them out in terms of what the revenue is for the pool? And what the revenue would be if you opened it more frequently and was more accessible to the community?
I mean, we do.
Have you done any of that?
We're working on that right now, the operational budget.
You haven't done that yet?
No.
Stan?
Said we're working on it.
We're working on it, is what he said.
Stan, just a short note. You have 250,000 gallons of water in that pool. 1 gallon of water weighs 8 pounds. If you start moving water out of there, you can't put it back in unless you have the bottom go out of the
Okay.
pool.
Okay.
So you need to keep water, and it needs to keep circulating. And the other situation is that if you don't have the proper equipment working correctly, you're getting short turnover rates to where the dirty water needs to be with diatomaceous earth, because that's a filler system you have in.
Right.
Is caked, and you've probably gone through it and they've explained that to you.
Okay.
So you don't want to lose it. And I don't know of any seismic study that you've done, but Olin told me at one time there are pilings in the ground, feet in the ground, that the pool is sitting on. And then it was landfill.
Okay.
Now, I'd like to know if that's the case or not,
Yeah.
because it creates another monkey wrench.
Yeah, it does. Well, I mean, let's look into that. Let's look into that's why we're gathering. This was an informational gathering session for us as council. We're getting together in a public meeting here next Monday night, starting at 7 p.m. Where
What's Tuesday?
is
Somebody
it?
said Tuesday.
Is it two?
No.
It's Monday.
Yeah, he misspoke at the very beginning saying Tuesday. He meant Monday.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's okay.
I apologize. Yeah, no, yeah. So next Monday night, we're reconvening at 7 o'clock as council, and this is a big item on the agenda now that we have gathered information to be able to discussion about what our next steps are with the pool.
I don't have a point. I just have
Okay,
one
yeah.
thing that maybe you could add to the agenda is clarifying the $3 to $10 million renovation, because that's a rather large gap.
Well, I'll tell you, between what I was told by the past city manager and by an architect, I'm probably going to lean towards the architect, but we'll work to get to the bottom of that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, All right, yeah, Councilor Schultz.
I just wanted to make a quick point
Yeah.
here that we do want this pool. I have 2 little girls that had swim lessons there tonight. Like, I'm with you, I understand this, and I feel like sometimes it can be a little unclear, like council versus, but it's not. Like, we've all said it. We love this pool, we want this pool, we use this pool. So I guess I just want to make that clear as we go out that this is what we want to.
Stan.
Yeah, Councilor Peetsel.
And I want to say, you know, I've been on the council the longest. And so back in 2014, when the school district was talking about closing down the pool, we came together and I sat here and encouraged the rest of the council at the time to look at ways to find out how to save this pool, how to save a pool in Sandy. Maybe it wasn't this bones, but it was to have a pool in our city, right? Because I felt it was very, very, very important. I have 3 small kids, and I didn't care for parks as much as I do now after I had kids, right? So you just kind of change your perspective when these things happen. I grew up in that pool too, just like the rest of us that grew up in this town, and swam there through the summers and through those times as well. So I fought hard and found ways to come up with creative ways to even be able to purchase this land and change and help with that urban renewal district with some of the other councilors that were on here at the time. You know, someone said $3 million was steal. The pool was only $1. You know, it was. That's how the school district said. It was $3 million for the land and the other building there because the pool is in such disrepair. And it's a 50-year-old pool. And as we did with the Friends of the Pool, and went through many sessions, many weeks in a row, over and over, and did research on other pools. 50 years is a lifetime of a pool. Mr. Smith, you probably well know of other communities and doing that. And so there was a lot of research done for that. And so it wasn't, we knew that we needed to be able to find the operations of the pool, right? And we knew that the pool wasn't as efficient as it could be. And we heard from experts about how the efficiencies could be. And we lobbied for, and we're going to put a $5, there's a $5 utility fee on there just for the pool at that time, right? And that was what did. That didn't happen. We had transition in things that didn't get put on the utility bill at the time in the school district, and a lot of variables went in place there, right? And so, but we are where we are now, and so we're having hard discussions because I don't want to lose the pool. I still have 3 little kids and enjoy that pool, right? They swim and enjoy it. And I have to say, I was telling these guys earlier because they didn't know because they weren't on council at the time, but back when I was going to a meeting about save the pool.
Yeah, these are easy, right?
Crud. My 4-year-old daughter comes up to me and goes, "Daddy, please save my pool." As I'm walking out the door, right? So please don't look at us up here going, this is an easy decision. This is not an easy decision. This affects us just as much. But we do also have a responsibility, no matter how much we like it. We don't have a money tree. And we have some budget constraints that we just have. And it does have an effect on the cost. So by any means, none of us want to shut down this pool at all. At all.
Well, so let me just, so here, you know, this is why we do this, right? And we're going to get to the bottom of a lot of what was discussed tonight and figure out a lot of it. You know, one thing I would just close with is, you know, people are throwing out the utility fee. You can't discriminate on a utility fee.
Yeah.
Okay? And so we have citizens here in our community that has to pay this utility fee just to run their water and to get their electricity on. We can't say if you're of this level of income, you pay this fee. If you're this level of income, you pay this fee. And we're balancing all of this with the knowledge of what's coming down the road.
Yeah.
So it's just, just please understand that we're we're looking at these issues. We want an open pool. There's been jokes about how bad of a darn swimmer I am. I grew up, though, in that pool. My kids love the pool. A lot of our kids use the pool and love the pool. We're balancing all of that with, with the folks that Lori and I delivered holiday baskets to, that pay that utility bill just to turn on their light.
Yeah.
So it's a balance for us, and we're trying to weigh all these options and make the best darn decision we possibly can. Councilor Smallwood?
No, it's okay. Just keep in mind, again, like everybody else in this room, nobody wants to lose this pool, but there are over 11,000 people in this community, and each of them have a weigh-in on something like a utility fee, and it's really easy to throw that out. It seems like a simple solution. But I don't know if it's a fair one, straight across the board, in this particular instance. And I'm not saying that it is or it isn't, so that's not my intention. But just please keep in mind that the representatives in this room don't represent the community as a whole, or we don't know that they do. Let's put it that way.
All right, we're going to have to go. We've had a public meeting. A lot of people have had multiple opportunities to speak. I'm going to thank you, everybody, for showing the activism to show up tonight.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.